If you could travel back 500 years, what would you do? This girl's boyfriend and best female friend ran off, also swiping a few $100 million won from her credit card. Completely despondent, she was drinking alone, not knowing what to do, when she noticed a little boy kicking at something by the lake. But in the blink of an eye, the boy was gone. Where could he have gone? This place is so big. Looking back down at the lake, she saw that the boy had fallen in. She thought to herself, I can't even swim, and there are so many people around. Surely I'm not the only one who saw this. They'll save him. But they weren't looking her way. The boy was still in the lake, calling for help. After a few seconds of internal debate, she thought, saving someone is the most important thing. She jumped straight into the lake, dog paddling towards the boy. Just then, the boy's father arrived in a boat, and together they pulled the boy onto the boat. A total solar eclipse suddenly appeared. The bottom of the lake felt like it had a magnet pulling her down. In an instant, she was sucked into the lake. This is it, I'm going to die. The most recent events flashed through her mind, her best friend and her boyfriend. Despite her miserable life, she didn't want to die. Watching the sun gradually being covered, feeling like she was about to kick the bucket, she slowly lost consciousness. A very long time passed, and then she felt something pulling her upwards. After bursting out of the water, she realized the place was completely unfamiliar. Where is this? Why am I here? Looks like I'm still alive, thank goodness. As soon as she turned around, she spotted a man bathing, who accused her of being a pervert. There was a group of naked men bathing. At that moment, a girl called her lady and ran over. She followed the girl as she ran away from the area with all the bathing men. As they were running, the girl said, "It's good you weren't caught. Run," she asked the girl. "Are you okay?" The girl remained confused. "Why does she keep calling me lady? This isn't a park, so why am I here?" she asked the girl. "Where is this?" the girl said. "Where else would it be? It's Songgak's largest bathhouse. Isn't this where you wanted to go?" The girl looked up and around. There were lots of people, men getting their backs scrubbed, and women bathing, with steam rising all around. She thought, I'm done for. I really am dead. This is the underworld, and fainted. A few hours later, she woke up and realized the place was completely unfamiliar, with a strange woman sitting next to her, wearing peculiar clothes. When the woman saw her wake up, she called her Hee-Soo. She hurriedly explained, I'm not Hee-Soo, I'm Go Ha-jin. Why were they calling her Hee-Soo and lady? Remembering the details of falling into the water, she realized she wasn't dead. Ki Ryong said she wasn't dead, just almost died. She asked, not dead? Then she pinched herself as hard as she could. It hurt. I really am not dead. She ran outside to look around, seeing a place she'd never been before, with everyone wearing strange clothes. If I'm not dead, then where is this? The woman said to her. Your name is Hee-Soo. I'm your cousin. She thought, my name is Hee-Soo and I'm not dead. This is the Goryeo dynasty. Could it be that I've entered someone else's body? Did I time travel? She pinched her cheek. Looking at the wrinkles on her hands, they were gone, replaced by fair skin. This is amazing. They take better care of skin in the Goryeo dynasty. Wiggling her butt and stretching her back. Not only is the skin beautiful, but the body is beautiful too. Looks like time traveling is a good deal. Ki Ryong looked at her. Lady has gone crazy. Not only is she talking nonsense, but she's making strange movements. While she was playing by the lake, she saw a couple being intimate. She found herself thinking that men in ancient times were so handsome. Just then, the princess arrived. Ki Ryong quickly performed a formal bow, and Hee-Soo also hunched over to greet the princess. The princess said, I heard you've lost your memory, so you don't even know how to properly bow. You should learn again. You never knew how to bow properly before anyway, so relearning with me is actually a good thing. Hee-Soo thought to herself, this shrew is bullying me too much. Not only is she saying unpleasant things, but her eyes are also full of malice. And she dares to lecture me. This young lady from the 21st century has never been bullied like this before. So she retorted directly, whether I want to learn or not is my business. What's it to you? Take a look at who I am. The princess was shocked and stunned. She hurried to apologize, saying, the young lady's mind hasn't fully recovered. Please don't hold it against her. The princess then hissed, damn it. Hee-Soo angrily replied, who are you calling damn it? Say it again. Luckily, the handsome guy from earlier arrived and was able to mediate the situation. In the afternoon, she was supposed to paste lanterns, but she had no idea how. No matter how she placed them, it didn't look right. Luckily, Ki Ryung helped her put them up. Seeing this, the princess sneered. Look at you, not only did you lose your memory, but now you don't even know how to paste decorations. What can you do? Let's give you an easy task, cooking glue. You can manage that, right? Hee-Soo said, of course, that's a piece of cake. But when she went to cook the glue, she realized it wasn't easy at all. It was the most exhausting task. After just 5 minutes, she felt a backache and shoulder pain. How long do I have to do this? I'm a skincare specialist, a top-notch makeup artist, and I have a ton of certifications. Making me do this is blatant bullying. Then, she did some physical therapy stretches, tilting and twisting her neck. Suddenly, she saw an older gentleman from a nearby workshop. Could it be that he traveled through time like me? She chased after him, but suddenly couldn't find him anywhere. At that moment, the fourth prince came riding his horse at full speed, disregarding the lives of everyone around him. Hee-Soo was bumped and almost fell into a row of dirty water. Luckily, the fourth prince reached out, grabbed her, and lifted her onto the back of his horse. Hee-Soo looked at him. He was so handsome. Hee-Soo stared intently at the fourth prince, thinking to herself, did I just travel to ancient times and instantly fall in love at first sight? But the fourth prince's next action made her doubt the idea of love at first sight. While she was still in a daze, the fourth prince tossed her off the horse like she was garbage. Hee-Soo was furious. Men in this era have no idea what romance is. Fine, if you don't love me, but how can you treat me like an object and throw me away so carelessly? She began to curse the fourth prince vehemently. You wretched man, riding your horse through the streets without regard for the lives of the people. How can you throw me away like trash? The fourth prince looked at the naive girl, threatened her a little, and then rode away. A kind older sister said to her, Miss, don't curse him anymore. That fourth prince kills people without batting an eye. It's good enough that you kept your life. Do you know how many sons the emperor has? How many people would kill to be noticed by him? At that moment, Ki Ryung arrived, telling her to hurry home. The princess was looking for her. She was furious because she had told her to cook glue, and she burned the kitchen. Hee-Soo timidly went to find the princess, looking like she was trying to hide. The princess scolded her again. When she glanced at the 8th prince, the 13th prince unexpectedly noticed and pulled her aside, asking, was it you who peeped at us bathing yesterday? Hee-Soo was terrified and quickly denied it before running outside. The 13th prince was sure it was her and ran out to find her. When the 13th prince was looking for Hee-Soo, he discovered a girl changing clothes and peeked. He was caught. Just then, Hee-Soo stopped him, saying, you pervert, you peek at other people changing clothes, apologize to her. The 13th prince was furious. No one dares to talk to him like that. I am a prince. How dare you talk to me like that? Furthermore, would I look at a lowly maid changing clothes? He menacingly asked the maid. Did I see you changing clothes? The maid was frightened and quickly said, no. Hee-Soo scolded him. Pervert! You peeked at someone changing clothes and then threatened her. Is there no justice in this world? The 13th prince shoved her aside and left. Hee-Soo angrily chased after him, demanding an apology. The 13th prince pushed her to the ground. Hee-Soo thought, this is my turf, right? This room dares to push me. I'll return the favor. And so the two of them fought a fierce battle. He had me in a hold around my waist, and I bit his hand. He shoved me. I kicked him. In the end, Hee-Soo was the more skilled fighter, pinning the 13th prince to the ground and delivering a headbutt of steel to his head, which left the other princes stunned. This girl was just too brave. When she was about to strike again, the 4th prince stopped her, throwing her aside. Luckily, her sister arrived just in time to rescue her. Her sister told her that the person she had hit was a prince. If the emperor punished her, even the 8th prince would be implicated. I promised your mother I would protect you, but you certainly aren't making things easy. Hee-Soo thought about her mother, who had been away from home for 3 days. Overwhelmed with missing her, she burst into tears, realizing that hitting a prince would surely result in severe punishment, maybe even death. The only way out now was to travel back to modern times. That evening, she went alone to the men's bathhouse with a lantern. Although she was terrified, she knew she had to take the risk, considering the consequences of hitting the prince. She went into the water, holding her breath, but failed to trigger time travel. Looking up, she saw the fourth prince standing in front of her. She was horrified, and the fourth prince was stunned too. There was a woman in the men's bathhouse. He quickly covered the half of his face with the scar, not wanting anyone to see it. Everyone who saw his scar had to die. He grabbed Hee-Su's neck, demanding to know if she had seen his scar. "Are you kidding me? I'm not blind, of course I saw it." Hee-Su, terrified, could only scream. "Yes, I did," the fourth prince threatened. "If you dare breathe a word of it, I will make your face look just like this." With that, he left. As he left, he dropped a hairpin. Hee-Su, seeing the fourth prince leave, finally breathed a sigh of relief. That was a close call, scared to death. Seeing the fourth prince's hairpin, she picked it up and left. On the way home, she was shivering with cold. It was below 0 temperatures. It would be strange if she wasn't cold. She originally thought she had succeeded, so she did not think about returning. When she got home, she saw a lot of people at the door. Her sister asked her anxiously where she had been. The whole family had been waiting for her. Hee-Su, hearing her sister say everyone was waiting for her, for the first time she felt the warmth of her family. She could not believe she was home. That evening, when Ki Ryong was brushing her hair, she said she was crazy to go to such a place. In Goryeo, it is allowed to have a mixed-gender bath, but if you meet the fourth prince, it is very dangerous. Hee-Su asked what kind of person the fourth prince was. Ki Ryong said the fourth prince's birth mother was the queen consort, and his adoptive mother was Lady Kang. But it was said the fourth prince was extremely cruel, liking to hunt small animals, and had killed all the wolves in the area. He also often killed people, especially those who saw his scar. Hee-Su, hearing this, was even more scared and realized she had really dodged a bullet. Ki Ryong said, "Tomorrow the fourth prince was born in the royal family. If he had been born into an ordinary family, he probably would not have survived." Hee-Su was very curious. Why wouldn't he survive if he were born into an ordinary family? Ki Ryong said, "In Goryeo, everyone likes handsome people, so ugly people naturally don't have a chance." Hee-Su mused. It seems the emphasis on appearances has been passed down for thousands of years. The next day was the 30th of the lunar month. Hee-Su was dressed by a group of maids. She thought this was too troublesome, with 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. "Where I'm from, 1 shirt is enough. It takes 2 hours just to get dressed." The princes were playfully spending time together. The 13th prince was still preoccupied with what happened last night. The other princes saying that if a guy hits a girl, it probably means he has feelings for her. The 13th prince was also very naive, not blaming Hee-Su, and even a little expectant of seeing her again. That evening, Hee-Su and Ki Ryong went strolling through the night market, amazed by everything they saw, since so much didn't exist in modern times. Suddenly, she spotted the fourth prince, sword in hand, chasing after an assassin. She followed them into a small forest. There, she saw a group of people who had been murdered. The sight horrified her, and she quickly ran home. Just then, she ran into the fourth prince and the assassin. The assassin was about to be convinced by the fourth prince to drop his weapon and surrender. But then he saw her and immediately used her as a hostage. The fourth prince became even angrier. The assassin was about to reveal the mastermind behind the plot, and then she had to come and mess things up. He threatened the fourth prince that he would kill Hee-Su. The fourth prince knew that if he compromised, he would be at a disadvantage. Besides, he had nothing to do with this girl, and was even considering helping the assassin kill her. Hee-Su, upon hearing the fourth prince say this, felt despair. Her neck was cut and bleeding, and she was on the verge of death, so she had to fend for herself by biting the assassin. Enraged, the assassin raised his sword to slash at Hee-Su, but luckily, the 8th prince appeared just in time and threw a throwing knife, killing the assassin. The 4th prince, seeing that the assassin he had been chasing all night was dead, was furious. He grabbed his sword and went to kill Hee-Su. The 8th prince immediately pointed his sword at the 4th prince, saying, "She's innocent anyway. I'll find the culprit for you. Killing her now is useless. We might as well go after the other culprit." The 4th prince was persuaded and released Hee-Su. Hee-soo remembered seeing a group of murdered people nearby and led them there. But upon arriving, the fourth prince didn't see any bodies. He grabbed Hee-soo and asked, "Where are the people? Didn't you say there was a group of people killed here?" Then the eighth prince spotted bloodstains on the bamboo trees and said, "Indeed, people were killed, but it's already been cleaned up." The fourth prince ran off to look for the assassin elsewhere. Hee-soo, seeing that the person who wanted to kill her had finally left, burst into tears. "What did I do wrong? He just let that assassin kill me, and he even wanted to kill me himself." The eighth prince was amused by Hee-soo's innocence and put his arm around Hee-soo to comfort her. "It's all right now." That evening, Hee-soo finished bandaging her wound and was about to go to sleep. Unexpectedly, she ran into the fourth prince on the way. The fourth prince's glare scared Ki-ryong into running away. Hee-soo wanted to call her back, but upon seeing the fourth prince, she couldn't utter a word. The fourth prince grabbed Hee-soo by the throat, asking her, "What exactly did you see?" Luckily, the eighth prince appeared in time to stop the fourth prince. Hee-soo remembered that the killer was wearing a fur coat. The fourth prince and the eighth prince immediately guessed who it was. They threatened Hee-soo not to tell anyone, or she would be in danger. As Hee-soo left, the fourth prince said, "From now on, you'll frequently appear before me." Hee-soo angrily retorted, "Why can't I appear before you? We're all equal. Why have you tried to kill me so many times? Is it wrong for me to want to live?" The fourth prince, confused by her words, ignored her and left. The eighth prince escorted Hee-soo back to her room. That night, Hee-soo had a nightmare. Hee-soo said, "Do you have nightmares at night? Is it a side effect of killing people?" The eighth prince said, "If killing one person gives me nightmares, then I wouldn't be able to sleep at all." Hee-soo didn't understand why the eighth prince said he had been killing people in the capital since he was 11. If he didn't kill others, he would be killed. He didn't know what side effects she was talking about. Hee-soo just smiled, without explaining. The next day was the first morning of the new year. All the princes were out on boats, enjoying themselves. The emperor came by and noticed a bruise on the 13th prince's face. He asked what had happened, and the 13th prince claimed he'd tripped and fallen. The emperor was displeased. "You're old enough to be more careful," he scolded. Meanwhile, Hee-soo was still worried. If the 13th prince told the emperor he'd been hit, would she be beheaded or have a leg chopped off? Just then, the 13th prince arrived. Hee-soo tried to appear calm. Indeed, the 13th prince dismissed all the servants and Ki-ryong to one side, saying he needed to talk to Hee-soo. Hee-soo assumed he was going to give her a hard time again, but the 13th prince seemed awkward, embarrassed, fidgeting as if he wanted to say something. In fact, he wanted to express his feelings, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. With her experience in matters of the heart, Hee-soo could tell with one look that he liked her. She even figured he wanted to say she was the first girl who'd ever treated him that way. And she was right. After hesitating for what felt like ages, the 13th prince bashfully blurted out exactly those words. Hee-soo exclaimed in surprise, "Oh my gosh, so that line's been around for 1,000 years. The 13th prince looked puzzled, not knowing what she was talking about, but not wanting to dwell on it. He continued, "That was the first time I've fought and felt so good. Before, people were always afraid of our grandfather and mother, and didn't dare to fight with me." Hearing about the fight, Hee-soo said, "That's not a problem. Whenever you want to fight, come find me anytime, and I'll beat you to a pulp if that's what you want." With that, she turned and left. The 13th prince was overjoyed, believing he had successfully confessed his love. Back at her place, Hee-soo saw her older sister about to go out, and offered to do her makeup. While applying it, remembering when she'd done makeup for her best friend, she told her sister, "I had a dream. My best friend was a makeup artist, and she had a boyfriend. Every time she went on a date, she would ask her to do her makeup. They were really close, and had a good time together. One day, when she was out shopping, she saw her boyfriend wave to her, but he didn't hear her, so she was about to call. At that moment, her best friend came up from behind and hugged her boyfriend, and she realized she had been a fool. All her savings, her house, were stolen by them, and they even secretly swiped her credit card without her knowing." Her sister finished her makeup and looked in the mirror, amazed at how different she looked. Of course, Hee-Soo was using modern makeup techniques that could transform anyone. Hee-Soo was strolling through the streets when she saw the 8th prince waving to her. The 8th prince was compelled to wave back, but thought it was such a weird gesture. Hee-Soo went to the apothecary to get some ingredients to make soap and body wash. The 8th prince asked what soap was. Realizing this was the ancient times, she explained that it was for washing and bathing, and also for applying to injuries. The 8th prince, having finished buying his medicine, told Hee-Soo to apply some to the wound on her neck so it wouldn't scar. When Hee-Soo couldn't find the spot, the 8th prince stepped closer to help. Hee-Soo felt flustered and her heart skipped a beat, but she let the 8th prince finish applying the medicine. Suddenly, her sister fainted. Hee-Soo followed the 8th prince as he carried her sister home. While helping her sister tuck the blanket, the 8th prince's hand and Hee-Soo's accidentally brushed. Hee-Soo quickly ran outside. As she reached the door, she overheard her sister saying, "My health is getting weaker and weaker, and I can't bear children. Please, leave me and marry someone else." Hee-Soo went outside, thinking about what her sister had just said, coupled with the 8th prince's behavior towards her in recent days. Her heart wavered a little. She knew clearly that she shouldn't feel this way, but she couldn't help herself. When she returned, she found the 4th prince sitting beside her. The 4th prince was thinking about the events of 3 days prior. It turned out he was still investigating the mastermind behind the assassination with the prosecution office. Upon examining the assassins' corpses, it was discovered that all of the assassins' tongues had been cut out. According to people at the prosecution office, these might be apostate monks. After violating their vows, they would be punished by having their tongues cut out. These performers disguised as assassins had all been invited by a temple. The 4th prince guessed that the temple was the one his mother patronized and immediately questioned his father. "Your Majesty, did mother send people to assassinate the crown prince?" His father denied it. He then went to find his mother, finding that she loved all his younger brothers, but treated him like he was invisible. When she looked at him, she seemed disgusted. He wanted to do something that would please his mother so she would value him. He was afraid that the prosecution office would investigate the temple and discover his mother's involvement. So the next day, he went to the temple alone and killed all the apostate monks there. The abbot even asked if his mother knew about it, and was eventually killed by him. When he left, he set the temple on fire. The people from the prosecution office arrived too late and could only see the raging fire. He took his blood-stained sword to find his mother, originally thinking that she would praise him for eliminating a potential threat. But to his surprise, his mother said, "No matter what you do, I will never cherish you. Your ugly appearance is a disgrace to me. That's why I gave you to the Kang family. I am not your mother." The 4th prince realized that the mother he loved had always thought this way, and was extremely angry, beating his head in frustration in the 8th prince's backyard. At that moment, Hee-Soo happened to pass by and saw the 4th prince destroying his prayer shrine, and went to stop him. Unexpectedly, the 4th prince pushed her to the ground. Hee-Soo saw that the 4th prince's hand was covered in blood. She was very worried, embracing the 4th prince and saying that he was injured. Seeing all the blood on his hand, she asked if he was hurt anywhere else. The 4th prince, seeing that someone cared about him, was stunned for a moment, and quickly grabbed Hee-Soo, saying, "I killed someone." Hee-Soo had watched historical dramas since she was young, and knew that in the palace, if you didn't kill others, you would be killed by them, so she understood the 4th prince even more. The 4th prince, thinking that even his mother didn't care about him, but this girl understood him, broke down and cried. The next day, Hee-Soo and her older sister saw a group of maids passing around a lunchbox, and asked what was happening. Ki-ryong said that they had to take lunch to the 4th prince, but everyone was passing the buck, afraid to go. After hearing this, her sister was very angry. How dare they treat a prince like that? You have to go find the person in charge. Everyone looked towards Hee-Soo. Hee-Soo was also stunned, laughing and saying, "I'm not a young lady. How is delivering meals something I should do?" Her sister saw that no one dared to go, so she told Hee-Soo to go. It took Hee-Soo 2 hours to climb to the top of the mountain. She was annoyed, not understanding why he couldn't just eat at home instead of on the mountain. But seeing the 4th prince's handsome figure, she immediately became shy. The 4th prince saw Hee-Soo and told her, "Leave the lunchbox and go." Hee-Soo put the lunchbox down, took a few steps, then turned back and sat down. Hee-Soo asked the fourth prince if he was feeling better. The fourth prince said that what happened last night should not be told to anyone. Hee-Soo was blunt. "I have so many things to do, I don't have time to gossip." She asked the fourth prince, "Why are you sitting on the mountaintop looking at the palace? Why don't you eat at home? Isn't that your home?" The fourth prince said helplessly, "Home is a place where there are family members." Hee-Soo was stunned. "Aren't your parents and siblings all there?" The fourth prince sighed without speaking. By the time they descended the mountain, it was already dark. Hee-Soo was wearing a long dress and carrying a heavy lunchbox, making it difficult for her to walk. The fourth prince wanted to step in and help, but he was afraid of losing face. He reached out his hand but didn't actually take it. The next day, Hee-Soo was thinking about her sister's comment about the 8th prince taking a concubine when the 13th prince secretly approached her with a pile of children's toys. Hee-Soo, seeing these things, became angry. "I'm not a 3-year-old, I'm troubled right now." The 13th prince asked her what she was troubled about, offering to listen. Hee-Soo asked the 13th prince if he was married. The 13th prince embarrassedly said he wasn't. Hee-Soo asked him how many wives he wanted to marry in the future. The 13th prince blushed and said he only wanted to marry one person, wanting to live to old age with the one he loved. Hee-Soo praised him for being sincere. The 13th prince shyly said he would only be like that with her. Hee-Soo instructed Ki Ryong to take the 4th prince's hairpin to his room and create a false scene, making it look like he carelessly dropped it in the room. As Ki Ryong was placing the item down, the princess suddenly barged in to clean the room. The princess mistakenly thought she wanted to steal the 4th prince's belongings and had her hung up, whipped so bad her back was covered in blood. Hee-Soo happened to pass by and saw it, immediately stopping the princess. The princess accused Ki Ryong of stealing. Hee-Soo had previously agreed with the 4th prince not to tell anyone that she had seen his face, so of course, she couldn't say she picked it up in the men's bath. So she said she told Ki Ryong to do it to take the blame for her. The princess then hung her up as well. At this moment, several princes happened to appear, seeing Hee-Soo tied up. The 8th prince was about to step forward to stop it, but the princess unexpectedly swung and hit him a few times. The 4th prince suddenly appeared, holding her hand, saying, "Princess, you can't hit my woman." Everyone who heard this was surprised. When did Hee-Soo become the 4th prince's woman? The princess, afraid she misheard, asked again, but still received the same answer. "My hairpin, I told my woman to take it, you can't hit her." At this time, the 13th prince also hurriedly ran over, standing in front of Hee-Soo, saying, "I saw the hairpin fall in front of the prince's chamber." Hee-Soo picked it up. Even he himself couldn't believe he was saying this. The 8th prince angrily ordered for the young lady to be released. The princess helplessly watched them leave. That evening, the 8th prince brought ointment for Hee-Soo. Seeing that the lights in the room were off, he left the ointment at the door and left. Hee-Soo saw the 8th prince leaving and hurriedly ran out, only to find that he was gone, leaving her very disappointed. As she turned around, she saw the 8th prince. Hee-Soo explained that she was pretending to be asleep earlier because she didn't know how to face him. The 8th prince understood, asking her if it hurt a lot. Hee-Soo said that compared to the pain of being beaten, it hurt even more here to let people beat her. How could it be like this? There's no equality at all. The 8th prince heartbrokenly put his hand on her shoulder, saying, "I promise I won't let anyone bully you again." Hee-Soo thought of her sister and realized that if she gave him a chance, she might be abandoned like that later on, so she pushed the 8th prince's hand away and left. The next day, Hee-Soo sat by the lake, enjoying the scenery and thinking about how to travel back to the modern era. As she turned around, she bumped into the 4th prince. Afraid of being scolded by the 4th prince, she started complaining first. The 4th prince said that she bumped into him, then asked how the hairpin was in her hand. Hee-Soo explained that he carelessly dropped it in the bath, and she helped him pick it up. To conceal the fact that she saw his face, she secretly returned it. The 4th prince asked her if she wasn't afraid of him. Hee-Soo scornfully said, "Although you're not easy to deal with, I'm not afraid of you anymore. In the future, don't say I'm your woman. I'm not an animal or an object." The 4th prince smirked. "What if I keep saying you're my woman?" Hee-Soo said fearfully. It doesn't sound comfortable, and walked away. In the afternoon, Hee-soo and Ki Ryong went out to play in the city. They saw the 14th prince tied up, and immediately Hee-soo told Ki Ryong to run home and get help, while she followed the captors. Just then, the 4th prince happened to pass by and saw her. He started to call out to Hee-soo, but when he saw how quickly she was running, he decided to follow her instead. Hee-soo saw the bad guys holding an axe, about to chop off the 14th prince's arm. She was so terrified that she couldn't even scream. She frantically looked for a weapon to save the 4th prince. Hee-soo grabbed a tree branch and ran towards them, yelling as she went, "Get out of here, you bad people!" At first, the thugs were startled and scared, even thinking that another prince had arrived. But after seeing the situation clearly, they realized she wasn't hitting anyone. After only a few clumsy moves, they knocked her to the ground. Just as they were about to grab her, the 8th prince arrived on horseback. He heroically charged in, shooting one with an arrow and knocking several others down with his staff. In a matter of minutes, he had defeated the group of thugs. As he prepared to strike the ringleader, the man shouted, "This isn't over." Suddenly, a dozen or so skilled fighters quickly surrounded them. At that moment, the 4th prince arrived on horseback. No one knew why he had followed Hee-soo. The thugs, seeing the prince, were scared and ran away. The 4th prince thanked Hee-soo for saving his arm, saying that from now on, Hee-soo's life was his life. He vowed that if Hee-soo was ever in danger, he would save her, even if it meant death. Hee-soo was deeply touched by his words. She embraced the 14th prince, saying, "It was nothing." Her actions startled all 3 princes present. Hee-soo quickly realized her actions were inappropriate and hastily explained that she thought of him as a younger brother, and couldn't help but hug him. That evening, on the way home, the 8th prince was visibly angry. He walked ahead, ignoring Hee-soo. She pretended that her foot was injured and in a lot of pain. Hearing this, the 8th prince immediately turned around and began to massage her shoulders, saying, "I thought I'd never see you again," betraying his fear. As the two were about to kiss, people from the household arrived, searching for them. They rushed over, asking if they were all right. The 8th prince thought to himself, annoyed, "Why now? Of all times to show up, it had to be now." He left without acknowledging anyone. Back at the house, the 4th prince was rearranging Hee-soo's wishing pagoda. Hee-soo arrived just as he was doing this, and immediately assumed that he wanted to knock it down again. To her surprise, he was fixing it. Hee-soo thanked the 4th prince for saving her. The 4th prince, for the first time, shared many of his inner thoughts with someone outside of the royal family. The 4th prince told Hee-soo that from tomorrow onwards, she would be moving into the palace. Hee-soo told him that after entering the palace, he should try to change, start a new life, and not resort to wanting to kill people at the slightest provocation. The next day, Hee-soo went to the 8th prince to get a lot of herbs. She asked the maids to help her make soap, but the soap they made looked just like mooncakes. The 8th prince watched from afar as Hee-soo diligently worked, feeling very happy. Hee-soo's older sister saw this, and realizing that the 8th prince was attracted to Hee-soo, and that she herself could not bear children, created an opportunity for the two of them to meet in private. That evening, her older sister asked Hee-soo to come to the study to grind ink, telling her the 8th prince would help her write a letter. Hee-soo was surprised when she entered the room, and her sister wasn't there, only the 8th prince. She didn't think much of it and went to help the 8th prince grind the ink. She saw the 8th prince writing in Chinese characters and was surprised by how beautiful his calligraphy was. The 8th prince asked Hee-soo if she preferred folk songs or Tang dynasty poetry. Hee-soo said she preferred Tang poetry. The 8th prince then wrote her a love poem. Hee-soo was very happy, but also confused because she didn't know a single Chinese character. She happened to see Ki Ryong passing by and called her over to read it to her. But Ki Ryong also didn't know how to read and could barely pronounce her own name, let alone read Tang poetry. The next day, while she was in the park trying to figure out how to pronounce these characters, a prince snatched the poem away from her. Seeing that she really couldn't read it, he read it aloud to her. After reading half of it, he realized it was a love poem and asked her who wrote it. She said it was the 8th prince. Just then, her older sister arrived and finished reading the last half of the poem, but didn't tell her the meaning of it. That night, she couldn't sleep. Lying in bed, she looked at the poem and said, The writing is as beautiful as the person. But as soon as she thought about the fact that he was her brother-in-law, she immediately reminded herself not to have any inappropriate thoughts, and then promptly fell asleep. The next day, Hee-Soo, along with her sister and the 8th prince, went to the royal palace to meet the queen. Everything she saw was new and unfamiliar, and the 8th prince was visibly pleased by her curiosity. She presented a bar of soap as a gift to the 8th prince's mother. The queen was delighted to receive it. Though she was accustomed to luxury within the palace walls, she had never seen anything quite like it. Just then, the emperor arrived, and Hee-Soo was thrilled to hear the words, "Your Majesty." She had only seen the founding emperor in books, and she couldn't believe she was seeing a real one. She couldn't stop staring. The emperor asked if she was the one who had hit the 13th prince, which frightened her so much that she immediately knelt down and begged for forgiveness. She was terrified. But then she remembered that the wise rulers on TV didn't randomly execute people, so she addressed the emperor as Sage Ruler. The emperor asked why she called him that, and she desperately tried to recall what her high school history teacher had taught her, coming up with 3 incorrect answers, which made the emperor laugh. Seeing how naive she was, he not only spared her life but also rewarded her with silk fabrics. The 8th prince reminded her to give thanks, so she imitated the elaborate bow she had seen in period dramas, leaving the imperial consorts baffled by the gesture. Being in the palace for the first time and meeting the emperor, Hee-Soo became so nervous that she needed to pee. She wandered around the palace but couldn't find a restroom. Completely out of options, she saw a tree and was about to relieve herself there when suddenly, the 4th prince grabbed her shoulder tightly. Hee-Soo was scared stiff, unable to speak for a moment. She only reacted after the 4th prince pushed her aside. She asked him why he was there, and the 4th prince said he was a prince, and the palace was his home. Hee-Soo asked if the house was so big, did he see his parents often? The 4th prince didn't answer. Suddenly, he saw the queen approaching. Hee-Soo panicked and quickly hid behind a wall, afraid to encounter the queen. The 4th prince and the queen finished talking, and when he turned around, he realized Hee-Soo was gone. She was still desperate to go to the bathroom and was naturally looking for a private place to do so. After taking care of her business, Hee-Soo and the 8th prince were strolling through the palace gardens. She looked up and saw the old guy that was at her company just before she time traveled. She approached him, asking if he remembered her, but he denied it. Not giving up, she finally pulled him aside, saying that they had once gone for drinks together in Millennium Park. Afterward, the old guy reminded her that she needed to be careful about what she said in the palace. Now that she was here, she needed to learn how to live in this place and not say anything reckless. He gave her a meaningful wink and then left. She and the 8th prince were admiring the snowy scenery in the back garden. Hee-Soo stepped in the 8th prince's footprints as they walked, and the 8th prince, seeing this, intentionally took longer strides. Hee-Soo couldn't reach the next step and almost fell, but fortunately, the 8th prince caught her. When Hee-Soo made the soap, she also made a bar for the 8th prince as thanks for the poem he had given her. The 8th prince asked if she understood the meaning of the poem, and Hee-Soo vaguely said it meant the scenery was beautiful. The 8th prince told her to write a poem for him, too. Back home, Hee-Soo racked her brains for 4 days, but only came up with 3 words, which she ultimately crumpled up and threw away. She really didn't know how to write poetry. When she didn't know what to do, she cleverly thought of drawing a picture. The next day, she secretly placed the bowl on the desk in the 8th prince's study. As she was about to leave, the princes happened to push open the door and enter. Upon seeing Hee-Soo, the 13th prince became incredibly excited, winking to signal the 8th prince, then turning around to playfully compete with the 10th prince. Unexpectedly, the 8th prince announced to everyone that Hee-Soo had written him a poem. The 13th prince unfolded the paper, and Hee-Soo froze in place. The other princes, curious, crowded around to look and were equally stunned. It wasn't poetry, nor was it a painting, but rather, emoticons. The 4th prince saw the 13th prince raise both hands, his mouth wide open, noticing that his expression mimicked the smiling face on the paper, and then everyone understood. Hee-Soo went to find her sister. Her sister, aware that her time was short, burned several sets of clothes for herself beforehand and asked Hee-Soo to do her makeup. Before dying, she wanted to leave a good impression on the 8th prince. While doing her makeup, her sister instructed Hee-soo to take good care of herself in the future. She cautioned that Hee-soo's personality could easily cause trouble in the palace. After saying that, she told Hee-soo to call the 8th prince. Hee-soo, weeping, went to find the 8th prince. Seeing Hee-soo's distraught state, the 8th prince knew something was wrong. Her sister asked the 8th prince to come with her to admire the snow. She hoped to continue living happily with the 8th prince. Before dying, she entrusted Hee-soo to the 8th prince, hoping he would treat Hee-soo as well as he had treated her. After saying this, she passed away. Hee-soo felt an emptiness in the world because of her sister's death. She had no more family, didn't know what she should do, and didn't know how to go back to modern times. Suddenly, she heard someone knock on the window. She looked outside but saw no one, assuming she misheard. After a moment, she heard the knocking again. She opened the door, and suddenly a doll jumped out. The 13th prince, holding 2 dolls, played the part of a wooden person to cheer her up, eventually collapsing in a heap, finally making Hee-soo, who was immersed in grief, burst into laughter. Hee-soo gave a thumbs up to praise the 13th prince's skill. The 13th prince didn't understand the thumbs up. Hee-soo explained that the thumb was the biggest finger of the 5, meaning the most skilled, the best, which frightened the 13th prince, who quickly lowered his middle finger, because only the emperor was considered the most skilled. He himself was at most the 2nd most skilled. In the afternoon, Hee-soo was playing with the princes when she bumped into the princess. The princess told her that her family had arranged a marriage for her and wanted to bring her home to get married, because Hee-soo had no parents and grew up with her sister. Now that her sister had died, her uncles wanted to cling to someone with more power and wanted Hee-soo to marry into that family. The princes, hearing that they wanted to marry Hee-soo off to someone she didn't know, were very worried and discussed helping Hee-soo escape. Hee-soo didn't want to be forced into marrying someone she had never met so soon after transmigrating to this time. This marriage was not of her own free will, and she planned to run away. At this moment, the 13th prince climbed through the window to help her escape the palace, and the other princes were responsible for providing cover. When they saw soldiers, they had one prince create a distraction. The 13th prince took Hee-soo out of the palace. The 8th prince was waiting outside the gate, putting a coat on Hee-soo, and they split up to escape. As the princess was seeing off Hee-soo's family, she happened to see the 8th prince escorting someone on horseback away. Knowing that the 8th prince intended to help Hee-soo escape, the princess led her soldiers in pursuit for more than 10 miles before finally catching up. It turned out that the person under the cloak was the 13th prince. They had used the lure the tiger from the mountain strategy, enticing the soldiers to chase after them so that the 4th prince could lead Hee-soo to escape in another direction. When the 4th prince was leading Hee-soo to escape, they encountered the royal guards. The 8th prince also arrived with the princess. They were wondering how they could have run into each other despite splitting up, when they learned that the soldiers were under the emperor's orders to escort Hee-soo back to the palace to be married. The princes were extremely surprised to hear that the emperor wanted to marry Hee-soo. The emperor was now over 70 years old and already had 26 concubines. The 4th prince firmly refused to allow them to take Hee-soo away and intended to defy the emperor's order. But the princess reminded him that if they didn't let them take Hee-soo, all the princes would be punished. Hee-soo didn't want to implicate them either, so she agreed to go back to the palace. In that tiny palanquin, she looked rather pitiful. Upon arriving at the palace, Hee-soo asked her uncle if she could refuse to marry the emperor. Her uncle said there was no way. Now that we're here, we can only resign ourselves to fate. At this moment, a maid arrived and wanted to take Hee-soo to bathe. Her uncle didn't understand why, at over 70 years old, the emperor would still be interested in a young woman in her 20s. The maid told Hee-soo to take off her clothes first to check for any scars. Only if there were no scars could she marry the emperor. Otherwise, she would have to consummate the marriage after the inspection. Hee-soo was horrified to hear about having to consummate the marriage that night and resisted vehemently. After being inspected and found to have no scars, the maid reminded her to take a bath. Hee-soo said she just wanted to be alone and angrily chased the maid away. In a moment of desperation, she suddenly remembered that there was a secret tunnel in the men's bathhouse. There might be one here as well. She rushed to find the tunnel, searching all around but still couldn't find it. only to be caught red-handed by the maids. The emperor was also very surprised to hear that the person he was about to marry was the cousin of the 8th prince's wife, but to consolidate his position, he had no choice but to keep this girl within his ranks. When the emperor finished changing into his formal attire and arrived at the bridal chamber, he saw the 8th prince kneeling outside the door, begging him not to marry He Su. The other princes had also come to ask the emperor to spare He Su. The emperor was extremely curious about what kind of woman would cause both the 8th prince and the 4th prince to stand up for her. The 4th prince told him there were many ways to keep He Su, and explained many reasons, but all were rejected by the emperor. The emperor scolded them for having narrow-minded thinking, saying that ruling a country couldn't be based on individual feelings. He was furious that his 2 sons stubbornly persisted in dissuading him. Seeing this, the 2 princes dared not say anything more. He Su overheard their conversation and understood that she was the only one who could save herself now. So she smashed a vase, took a shard of porcelain, and cut her wrist, hoping the emperor would give up on her. But the emperor saw this and laughed loudly, thinking that she was indeed a strange and extraordinarily courageous woman. The 8th prince, seeing that He Su was about to faint, quickly went to support her and carried her out. The other princes were all waiting. Seeing the 8th prince carry He Su out, they hurriedly ordered the royal physician to be summoned. While unconscious, He Su dreamed of the scene when she traveled through time, and also dreamed that the emperor's successor was Guangzhong. She didn't want to die here. Startled awake, she found that she was still alive. The court lady asked her if what she did was worth it. If she went with the emperor, she would enjoy lifelong prosperity and honor, while refusing would only lead to death. He Su replied that it was very much worth it, because she had to protect what she wanted to protect. The 8th prince stayed up all night standing guard outside her room. He told He Su that the emperor had called off the marriage because of the scar on her body, but had still granted her some fertile land. He felt utterly useless, last night being the most helpless he had ever felt, unable to do anything. He Su was overjoyed to see the 8th prince again. She thought she would never see him again, not even to say a proper goodbye. The 8th prince embraced He Su, promising that he wouldn't let anything like that happen again, and that he would protect her well. Meanwhile, the emperor was furious that He Su had refused the marriage. The State Affairs Council punished her by sending her to the border as an unskilled servant. Seeing this, Chou Jaimong spoke up for He Su, saying that since they had both traveled through time to this era, he begged the emperor to make her a palace maid instead. Many girls wanted He Su to come to the Beauty Institute, as she was rumored to have a knack for it, which could contribute to the court's economy. After some consideration, the emperor agreed. He Su was admiring flowers in the garden with the 8th prince when Chou Jaimong came to inform her of the news. Little did He Su know that staying in the palace would be the beginning of a nightmare. Upon hearing that she was staying, the princes all rushed to see He Su. Looking at the princes and recalling her dream from the previous night, she wondered who would be the prince who would kill all his brothers to ascend the throne. She absolutely didn't want that to happen. Chou Jaimong urged her to quickly go to the Beauty Institute. While passing by the 4th prince, he silently looked at He Su's injury with distress. Arriving at the Beauty Institute, He Su looked up and was surprised to see that the person in charge was the court lady who had previously been by her side. Everyone called her head court lady O. She asked He Su if she knew how to brew tea or had any knowledge of beauty tools. These were He Su's specialties. After all, she had received a bunch of professional certifications. This was her major. Head court lady O then asked He Su if she could read and write. He Su was stunned. She was illiterate. Head court lady O chuckled, realizing she was an illiterate. The 4th prince came to the Beauty Institute looking for He Su, grabbed her injured arm, and said she shouldn't do that again. What about life-threatening situations? It was unclear whether he was genuinely worried about He Su or just pretending, but he grabbed her right on the painful spot. He Su explained that she was truly out of options at the time. Even if she had to die, she would accept it. On her first day of work, He Su had to follow head court lady O to deliver a sleeping pillow to the 8th prince's mother. The Grand Royal Consort Dowager asked her if she was getting used to living in the Beauty Institute. He Su cheerfully replied that it was her profession, and she should be doing such work. Noticing that the makeup on the Grand Royal Consort Dowager's face was fading, Hee Soo intended to touch it up when she was scolded by Head Court Lady O and sent outside. Hee Soo, standing outside, overheard someone in the next room complaining about an itch and ordering a servant to bring ice water. Curious, she went in to investigate. Realizing it was an allergic reaction, she immediately stopped the Crown Prince from washing with ice water. The Crown Prince was furious and tried to strike her, but when Hee Soo described the exact symptoms he was experiencing, he let her go. Hee Soo used warm water and mint leaves to soothe the Crown Prince's skin, and sure enough, the itching subsided. Just then, Court Lady O arrived and nearly tripped over Hee Soo. Upon returning, she punished Hee Soo by making her kneel for 4 hours and read through a pile of books. She also warned Hee Soo never to interfere in the Crown Prince's affairs again and sentenced her to watering the garden. Hee Soo carried the heavy water jug into the garden without looking around. Water splashed everywhere, soaking the 4th prince who was sleeping nearby. Hee Soo accidentally broke the water jug and thought about running away. The 4th prince asked her if she was planning to escape. Hee Soo complained to him that she had talent but no opportunity to use it and that it was hard to find a good boss at work. She also wondered why Court Lady O wouldn't let her interact with the Crown Prince, questioning if she was afraid the Crown Prince would fall for her. The 4th prince told her to stop being so conceited. Court Lady O was doing it for her own good. If she touched the Crown Prince and made his condition worse, she would surely die. He also advised Hee Soo to focus on her duties and stop thinking about escaping all the time. Hee Soo's daily work involved making cosmetics. The 18-hour workdays left her exhausted every night, so much so that she would fall asleep as soon as she got back to her room, without even changing her clothes. Court Lady O brought the court ladies to brew tea for the princes. Suddenly, the 8th prince pulled Hee Soo into a corner. Luckily, she turned back in time, narrowly avoiding detection by Court Lady O. Because she had used the wrong ingredients that morning, Hee Soo was punished by having to rewrite something 100 times. The 8th prince came to help her. Watching him write, she secretly thought, "He's so handsome, more handsome than a ton of modern-day celebrities." Her infatuation problem resurfaced. The 8th prince noticed her clumsy handwriting and told her that this was his name, meaning the sun at dawn. Then, he placed a bracelet on Hee Soo's injured hand, saying that the color red could ward off evil and also symbolize a lasting bond. He told her never to take it off for the rest of her life. Hee Soo looked at him, touched, and nodded. The 8th prince promised to find a way to bring her back to how things were before and told her to wait patiently for him. Then, he gave her her first kiss. That night, Hee Soo gazed at the character Wook he had written, thinking about the events of the afternoon. She was beginning to like it here. It didn't matter anymore if she couldn't return to the modern era. The next day was the 13th prince's birthday. Hee Soo asked for time off to go to his palace. She put on makeup and dressed in a beautiful outfit, preparing a surprise for the 13th prince. It was a bouquet of roses and a birthday cake. She also put a birthday hat on him to thank him for his care and attention over the past few days. Hee Soo sang "Happy Birthday" and even included a dance. Unexpectedly, the other princes stumbled upon the scene. Hee Soo thought it was just her and the 13th prince, so she felt extremely embarrassed. Everyone egged her on to sing another song for them. Hee Soo had no choice but to sing a currently popular song. The princes were all captivated by her voice. The song was great because, in this era, they had only heard opera and never anything like this melody. The princess was also fascinated, but it only made her more jealous of Hee Soo because she had captured the attention of the princes. The princess forbade Hee Soo from attending the 13th prince's birthday banquet. Fortunately, the crown prince appeared just in time, saying that whether or not the 13th prince cherished Hee Soo, he had specifically invited her to come and spend time with the 13th prince, considering it a birthday gift for him. During the banquet, everyone gave gifts to the 13th prince. There were jade lions, slingshots. The 13th prince, being playful, really liked this gift. There was also a practice notebook, which made him furious. "You're too much, giving homework as a gift?" The 3rd prince whispered to the 13th prince. "The 4th prince has never given a gift to anyone before." Hearing this, the 13th prince wanted to receive a gift from the 4th prince even more, so he asked Hee Soo to help him get one. Su, wanting the 13th prince to be happy, agreed. The third prince, seeing the fourth prince appear, announced, "Everyone has given gifts to the 13th prince. Where's yours?" The fourth prince, having prepared nothing, said, "The 13th prince can have whatever he wants." The 13th prince asked, "Really? Anything I want?" Su chimed in. The fourth prince keeps his word, of course he'll agree. Unexpectedly, what the 13th prince wanted was to see the fourth prince take off his mask. Everyone was shocked, but also very curious. The fourth prince had no choice but to slowly remove his mask. When his face was revealed, everyone was extremely surprised. Some even looked terrified. Seeing their reactions, the fourth prince knew he'd been made a fool of and angrily stormed off. Su hurriedly followed. "I'm sorry, I really didn't know that was the gift he wanted. Please don't be angry." The fourth prince, furious, grabbed Su's hand and shouted, "Not enough. Is that not enough? I really hate you right now. Don't show your face in front of me again. Next time, I don't know what I might do." Su, unintentionally having teased the fourth prince, felt guilty and wanted to find an opportunity to apologize. She specially brewed Longan tea, the fourth prince's favorite, but he refused it outright. Su called the 14th prince over and asked, "Does the fourth prince really like Longan tea?" The 14th prince replied confidently, "He only drinks that stuff." Su wondered, why did he accept the 13th prince's apology, but not mine? The 14th prince looked at her and responded, "So, he likes you." Hearing this, Su quickly tried to avoid the topic, but he held her back, not letting her leave. Su's actions with the 14th prince were inadvertently noticed by Court Lady O, and also seen by passing palace maids. As Su walked by, a palace maid maliciously tripped her, causing her to fall. Fortunately, Court Lady O appeared in time. After returning, she was punished. Su didn't understand why she was bullied and still had to be punished. Court Lady O said, "This is the consequence of a palace maid being too close to the princes. You must know your place and not be too familiar with the princes." At the same time, she warned Su, "Stay away from the princes in the future. I don't want to be in danger because of you." Su knelt for a whole day, almost dying from exhaustion. Suddenly, she saw a letter on the table with the words "bathhouse." "I don't know how I learned to read so quickly." The letter was an invitation to meet at the bathhouse from the 8th prince. When he met her, the 8th prince said, "This year has been a continuous drought, so a grand rain ritual must be held. If it rains, the emperor will grant a general amnesty. At that time, I can arrange for palace maids to be released from service, and you will be allowed to leave the palace." Hearing this, Su was overjoyed. The next day, Su brought the medicinal herbs to treat the crown prince's allergy. The crown prince even gifted her a necklace as a thank you. At that moment, the fourth prince entered, saw her, but paid her no mind. On her way back, Su was taken away by some mamas and brought to the third prince and his mother, the queen. The queen grabbed Su by the hair, questioning her about whether she had treated the crown prince. Before Su could answer, Court Lady O arrived just in time to save her. The queen, though furious at Court Lady O's intervention, was helpless since the court ladies were under the emperor's jurisdiction, and the queen had no right to interfere. Su thanked Court Lady O for saving her, but received a slap in return, along with a scolding. "Didn't I tell you not to get too close to the crown prince?" Court Lady O even regretted taking her in. Su felt utterly wronged. "What did I do wrong? I just saw him feeling unwell that day and wanted to help. Why is it that whenever I have conflicts with other court ladies, I'm always the one being punished? Why am I always wrong?" Court Lady O burst into tears, saying, "Because you're too much like I was back then. Kind, eager to help others, believing that there are no bad people in this world. But you're not suited for life in the palace. It can easily lead to your demise." With that, she fainted. Su quickly helped her up and brought her some porridge. She told Su to leave, but Su whined, "I'll go after you eat." Court Lady O appeared annoyed. "Don't try to flatter me. Get out." Su now understood that Court Lady O's strict treatment of her in the past was for her own good. So, no matter what she said, Su was no longer afraid. Today was the grand rain-seeking ceremony. The emperor drew a card to decide who would perform the ritual, and the card fell to the fourth prince. As he walked among the people to reach the altar, the commoners began to whisper in disapproval. Wearing a mask, he must be ugly. To have him pray for rain would be disrespectful to the gods. They threw stones and even mud at him. Driven back to the palace by the people, the fourth prince saw his brothers, ministers, and even the person he loved laughing at him, and was utterly devastated. He ran away. He-Su finally found him on a boat by the lake. She called out to him several times but received no response. Thinking he was about to commit suicide, she hurried onto the boat to check. She almost tripped, but the fourth prince managed to catch her. It could be seen as a sign that he had indirectly forgiven her. That evening, He-Su suddenly thought of Chinese makeup techniques, believing that she could use them to help the fourth prince conceal his scar. On the third day, He-Su removed the fourth prince's mask and began applying makeup in a modern Chinese style. Initially, the fourth prince was skeptical, but he had no other choice and clung to a sliver of hope. The makeup process took a whole hour, while the commoners waited anxiously. This time, whoever could bring the rain would have the people's support, making it easier to claim the throne later on. The third prince, who had ambitions of becoming emperor, wouldn't miss such a good opportunity. Just as he was about to get on the palanquin, the fourth prince stopped him. The third prince, enraged, slapped him, causing his mask to fall off. Everyone was shocked to discover that the scar on the fourth prince's face had disappeared. The third prince was stunned, and could only helplessly watch as the fourth prince got on the palanquin and left. When the people saw that it was still the fourth prince, they started to throw things, but when they saw his face clearly, they were startled. The scar is gone. Could he be the one chosen by heaven? They all knelt down and worshipped him. The queen was furious that the chosen one wasn't the third prince, but the fourth prince. Meanwhile, the fourth prince slowly proceeded to the altar before everyone's astonished eyes. Slowly sitting down on it, He-Su looked around at the crowd to see if anyone still dared to look down on her, a satisfied smile blooming on her face. But when she saw the fourth prince's eyes, filled with murderous intent, the smile vanished instantly. At that moment, the sky gradually began to rain. The common people and officials all jumped for joy. It was finally raining. The fourth prince's murderous gaze made He-Su think, could the fourth prince be Guangzhong, the one who killed all his brothers and the old ministers? She looked at the eighth prince, thinking to herself, will this man die too? On the way back, the people lined the streets to welcome them. Thank you for praying for rain to save us all. He-Su was still lost in thought. Was it because I did his makeup that he was able to become emperor? But in history, he was already the emperor. Could it be that he severed ties with all his brothers because of me? Just then, the eighth prince suddenly pulled her under the eaves, softly saying, don't catch a cold. But He-Su couldn't stop thinking, will everyone die later on? The eighth prince comforted her. Don't worry. The fact that fourth brother prayed for rain doesn't change anything. There's no need to be afraid. Still uneasy, He-Su found an old guy who worked at the company next door and asked, do you know who the next emperor is? The old guy replied, it's the current crown prince. After the crown prince, it's Guangzhong, I think. He-Su was extremely frightened. If that were the case, would all the princes have to die? She worriedly asked. So, what can I do to change it? The old guy shook his head. You don't need to do anything. Even knowing history, you can't interfere. Helping the fourth prince with his makeup is already a change to history. I hope you won't get involved any further. Only then can you be safe, and history won't be disrupted. Suddenly, in the hallway, the fourth prince pulled He-Su into his embrace. Recognizing the person in front of her, she was terrified and quickly struggled out of his arms. She knew very well that the fourth prince would later become a murderous demon. But realizing her reaction was too extreme, she quickly apologized. It's just that it was so sudden, that's why I reacted that way. The fourth prince smiled and softly replied, thank you for helping me with my makeup. Now, the emperor has also begun to value me. The common people no longer call me a monster. Even the way my brothers look at me has changed. Looking at the fourth prince's somewhat cheerful face, He-Su was even more confused. Why would he become like that later on? She looked directly into the fourth prince's eyes and said seriously, "Later on, don't ever hurt other people. The other princes like you a lot too." Seeing the fourth prince so happy, she wanted to change history even more. She didn't want the princes to suffer tragic fates. If she could change history, perhaps she could also change her own destiny. The next day, the emperor wanted to reward the fourth prince for successfully praying for rain and performing a great service. He asked him if he wanted thousands of acres of land, or gold, silver, and silks. The fourth prince said he didn't want any of that, and only hoped to have He-Su bestowed upon him. The emperor thought for a moment and then agreed to let He-Su stay by the fourth prince's side to serve him well. The eighth prince witnessed this but was powerless to do anything. The princes were all surprised that the fourth prince requested He-Su as his reward. But what the emperor said next shocked them even more. Tomorrow, the 13th prince and the Grand General's daughter would be married. The 13th prince was utterly stunned to hear this and immediately refused. The person he loved was He-Su, and now he was being forced to marry someone he didn't love. How could he agree? He begged the emperor to withdraw the decree. Otherwise, even if he had to commit suicide, he wouldn't marry the Grand General's daughter. The emperor flew into a rage. "You dare defy my imperial order and even threaten me." The next morning, the crown prince intervened and pleaded on his behalf. The 13th prince, realizing the emperor was in a furious temper, reluctantly agreed to the marriage. That afternoon, the 8th prince told He-Su, although this rain summoning ritual was successful, because the 13th prince has to marry, the emperor has cancelled the general amnesty. You also can't be secularized and leave the palace. He-Su was heartbroken, but there was nothing she could do. She could only tell the 8th prince that she was okay and just worried that the 8th prince wouldn't be able to wait. The 8th prince promised He-Su that he would quickly figure out a way for her to leave the palace. That evening, while preparing medicine, Court Lady O especially instructed He-Su to pay more attention to the 4th prince. He-Su didn't understand why Court Lady O said that. Court Lady O said that the 4th prince was someone who deeply lacked love, but that he had learned what love was from her. If she couldn't give him everything, then she absolutely had to be decisive. She couldn't think that she could change everything. The princes all presented wedding gifts to the 13th prince, and everyone wished him well, hoping he'd soon have an heir and a chubby baby boy next year. He-Su stood from afar, watching the princes chatting, when she suddenly saw a scene from the future. The 13th prince and the Grand General's daughter being killed by the 4th prince. Startled and frightened, she hurriedly ran away from there. The 8th prince saw her and chased after her. He-Su, still shaken by fear, told the 8th prince that he absolutely had to be wary of the 4th prince and stay away from him. She insisted that no matter what he wanted to do in the future, the 8th prince must never interfere. Otherwise, they would all die. The 8th prince didn't understand why she was saying such things. Seeing how extremely frightened He-Su was, he held her tightly, comforting her. "It's all right. It's okay." That evening, He-Su, still terrified by the scene she had witnessed during the day, ran to the lakeside, desperately trying to find a way to time travel back to the modern era. At that moment, the 4th prince suddenly approached and embraced her from behind. The moment He-Su saw the 4th prince, she struggled to break free from his grasp, shouting in his face, "In the future, you're going to kill everyone. I'm scared of you." Upon hearing her words, the 4th prince became incredibly angry. He grabbed He-Su, gritting his teeth, and said, "I am not a monster. You can't call me that. The emperor has gifted you to me. You are mine now." With that, he embraced He-Su tightly and forcibly kissed her. Initially, He-Su resisted with all her might, but how could she possibly compete with the strength of a man? After a while, she gradually gave up fighting back. Seeing that He-Su no longer resisted, the 4th prince pulled her, running out of the palace grounds. Just then, the 14th prince, climbing over the wall to sneak out of the palace, witnessed the scene. He couldn't fathom why the 4th prince was taking He-Su out in the middle of the night. The 14th prince understood that if a palace maid was discovered leaving the palace, she would undoubtedly be punished. Therefore, he immediately went to find the 8th prince to ask for help. The 8th prince, upon hearing that the woman he loved had snuck out of the palace with the 4th prince, felt deeply worried. Without hesitation, he immediately set off with the 14th prince to pursue them. As dawn broke, the 4th prince took He-Su to the seaside. They had been gone all night. The 4th prince confessed his feelings to He-Su, but she refused him outright. "I'm sorry, but there's someone else in my heart." The 4th prince asked her, "Is it the 8th prince? If it is, I'll kill him." He-Su was frightened and didn't dare say anything. The 4th prince told He-Su, "From the moment you were hit by the princess, and I stopped her and declared you were mine, I've considered you my person." With that, he gifted He-Su a hairpin. He-Su was still afraid and didn't dare accept it. On the way back to the palace, the 4th prince and He-Su ran into the 8th prince and 14th prince. "We were looking for them." The 8th prince wanted to take He-Su away, but the 4th prince refused. "His Majesty has bestowed her upon me. She is my person." Seeing that they were about to clash, He-Su immediately said she would return with the 4th prince. Hearing the woman he loved say this, the 8th prince had no choice but to watch them leave. Back at the palace, they ran into Court Lady O. Court Lady O said that He-Su's feelings for the 4th prince must have stirred up great waves in his heart. "I told you not to be kind to anyone easily, or you'll lose your life," He-Su asked Court Lady O. "So what should I do?" Court Lady O said. "You can only be cold to the 4th prince for a while." That evening, He-Su explained to the 8th prince, "Last night, we really just went to watch the sunrise. Nothing else happened. Please trust me." The 8th prince believed her but felt useless. "I keep you in Yami Palace, but the 4th prince takes you out." Hearing that you and the 4th prince had left the palace, I was terrified and worried. "I don't want to endure this torment anymore. I want His Majesty to grant us a marriage." He-Su looked at the 8th prince, thinking that if she and the 8th prince got married, would the 4th prince kill him? As she was hesitating, Court Lady O suddenly walked in, interrupting their conversation. She shouted, "What are you two doing?" He-Su was frightened and trembled, not daring to speak. The 8th prince still wanted to explain, but Court Lady O said directly, "If your affair is discovered, who will die first? Regardless of rank, anyone who has a relationship with a palace maid will be severely punished." After saying that, she led He-Su away, back to Yami Palace. Court Lady O told He-Su to leave the scandalous palace with her, because her body was weak, and His Majesty had allowed her to leave the palace. "Now that I know the relationship between He-Su and the 8th prince, the only way is to escape." But He-Su was reluctant, because she wanted to accept the 8th prince's proposal. Court Lady O said, "You're still young. I've experienced something like this before. Back then, His Majesty promised me the same thing, but for the sake of ascending the throne, he still chose to abandon a tea-serving girl like me." "Before the throne, love is worthless," He-Su replied. "My love may not be like yours. The 8th prince is willing to leave the palace with me and go farming." Court Lady O scolded her to wake up. "Think about the 4th prince. You're caught between two princes. Do you think you can still keep your life? Trust me, my friend has gone through even more suffering than you." But He-Su still chose to believe the 8th prince. The next day, the 4th prince came to find He-Su, asking her to help him reapply his makeup. "It's been over half a month since the last time I reapplied it. Your makeup is really good." While reapplying his makeup, He-Su told the 4th prince, "Before, when I didn't have a friend, I helped you, but I don't love you. We are just friends. Friendship, not love. Do you understand?" But the 4th prince said directly, "I've never had friendship or love, so to me, they are the same." Then, he hugged He-Su, intending to force a kiss. He-Su immediately covered her mouth. Seeing her like this, the 4th prince didn't want to force her anymore, so he let go. That evening, the 4th prince's mother told him that during the Double Ninth Festival, he was to poison the crown prince's tea. The 4th prince disagreed, but the queen consort threatened him. "If you refuse, you can go and report me. When that happens, I'll say it was because I wanted you to become the crown prince." Right now, a single palace maid carrying tea can kill the crown prince, and you can take his place. Whether you agree or not, it will happen. The 4th prince was left with no other choice, but he didn't want to harm his brother. The next day was the Double Ninth Festival. The emperor and the princes were playing a game where the loser had to drink interlocking lips wine. Everyone was having a good time. The 4th prince constantly watched the crown prince, looking for an opportunity to speak with him. The emperor noticed that the crown prince didn't want to drink the wine and ordered a palace maid to bring tea instead. The fourth prince hesitated, wondering if he should say something. After a long internal struggle, he decided to secretly inform the emperor that someone planned to poison the crown prince. Suddenly, he saw the palace maid carrying the tea approaching. It was He Su. The fourth prince wanted to reveal the queen consort's plot to harm the crown prince, but the maid serving the tea was He Su. If the fourth prince reported the plot now, the queen consort would shift the blame to He Su, and she would face no punishment. However, He Su serving poison tea would be sentenced to death. Therefore, the fourth prince decided to shoulder everything himself. The fourth prince asked the emperor to allow him to drink the 3 cups of tea offered by the crown prince to express his gratitude. The fourth prince knew the tea was poisoned, but he still chose to drink the 3 cups for He Su's sake. The queen consort and the princess were furious, but could only watch helplessly as their plan was ruined. After He Su poured 3 cups of tea for the fourth prince, the teapot was empty. He Su asked for permission to refill it. The fourth prince already felt unwell and asked the emperor for permission to leave the banquet. As he turned to leave, blood was already trickling from the corner of his mouth. The princess watched the fourth prince leave and impulsively stood up. She hadn't expected the fourth prince to be so resolute, disregarding his own life to save He Su. The emperor asked the princess why she was standing. The princess, being cunning herself, saw that the queen consort had no reaction, so she asked the emperor to allow her to offer the crown prince 3 cups of tea and requested something related to the 8th prince. The princess raised the cup of tea offered by the crown prince. The queen consort was shocked to see this, but the princess didn't drink it. She poured it all out. Immediately afterward, the princess pretended to feel unwell and collapsed to the ground. The queen consort hadn't expected the princess to use this method, and she had no choice but to say that the princess had been poisoned. The princess claimed it was from the fourth prince's tea. Then blood trickled from the corner of her mouth, and she fainted. The fourth prince left the banquet and went after He Su. By now, he could barely stand. Everything before his eyes became blurred, and he wanted to call out to He Su but couldn't make a sound. Finally, the fourth prince spat out a mouthful of blood. He Su finally noticed. He Su saw the fourth prince's condition and didn't know what had happened, but she just hugged him, repeatedly calling for help, but no one came. The fourth prince used the last of his strength to tell He Su, "Don't stay here, leave this place quickly," and then he passed out. The princes learned that the princess was poisoned after using the fourth prince's teacup. The fourth prince was sent to the Royal Medical Institute. He Su was arrested for plotting to harm the prince, as she was the one who served the poisoned tea. Guards searched He Su's room and discovered a valuable hairpin and necklace, as well as poison. After examining the princess, the royal physician was warned by the princess to choose his words carefully. In this palace, saying one wrong thing could cost you your head. The royal physician understood what he needed to say to the outside world, of course. Although the fourth prince drank 3 cups of the poison tea, he was in good health and received the antidote in time, so his life wasn't in danger. That evening, the 8th prince came to find He Su, and was heartbroken to see that her hands were covered in wounds. "Someone must have been torturing you these past few days," the 8th prince said. "You have to hold on. I will definitely save you." When the fourth prince woke up, the first thing he did was look for He Su. He ran into the 8th prince just as he was leaving his room. The 8th prince blamed the fourth prince, saying, "This happened to He Su because she's by your side." The only way to resolve the situation was to find the real culprit. "Who told you that?" "The prince who wants to kill the crown prince is his own mother. I drank that poison tea to save He Su, originally planning to find a deserted place and die. I never expected the princess to be poisoned as well, which is why He Su got involved." Knowing that the 8th prince truly loved He Su, the fourth prince entrusted him with finding evidence to prove that the queen was plotting to harm the crown prince. The 8th prince followed a palace maid and saw a masked figure behind a palanquin. He took the palace maid hostage and forced the figure to remove their mask. He discovered it was his own younger sister. The princess told him, "I did all of this for the good of our family. Only then can you sit on the throne." The princess also knew that the 8th prince wouldn't hand her over to the emperor, as doing so would implicate their entire family, and their mother would be exiled. Lady O, seeing He Su tortured beyond recognition, felt deep sorrow for her. Returning to the palace, she found the 8th prince waiting for her. The 8th prince wanted Lady O to plead with the emperor to pardon He Su. Lady O asked the 8th prince, "Why don't you step forward to save He Su yourself? Are you worried about the impact on your future struggle for the throne? If you don't help her now, you'll regret it for the rest of your life." Court Lady O went to see the emperor. She confessed that she was the one who intended to harm the crown prince, and He Su was innocent, pleading with the emperor to release He Su and arrest her instead. The emperor, of course, knew the truth. He was furious and told her to step down. Court Lady O then produced a blood-stained handkerchief, recounting how, when she was pregnant and suffering from severe morning sickness, the queen had offered her papaya tea, claiming it would alleviate the nausea. She drank it for 3 days, but instead of relieving her sickness, it caused her to miscarry, unable to protect her child with the emperor. "I see He Su as the child I lost. I don't have much time left. The royal physician has diagnosed me with a stomach illness. I lost one child. I don't want to lose He Su too." The next day, upon hearing that He Su was sentenced to death, the 4th prince rushed to disrupt the execution. He Su was being escorted to the execution grounds, thinking to herself that she was about to die. Why hadn't the 8th prince shown up? At that moment, she only saw the panicked face of the 4th prince. With a few basic moves, the 4th prince subdued the guards and ran to stand in front of He Su. The atmosphere was extremely tense, as if a major battle was about to erupt. Then, the time-traveling uncle arrived, holding an imperial edict, and announced, "The real culprit has been found. He Su is innocent and can be released." On the way back with Yami, He Su saw the guards escorting Court Lady O. Court Lady O told He Su that she was the one who murdered the crown prince, causing He Su to suffer these past few days. He Su wasn't stupid, of course, she didn't believe it. She dragged Court Lady O towards the men's bathhouse, where there was a secret passage leading out of the palace. Seeing that the secret passage was blocked, He Su, with her bare hands, began to remove the rocks. She wanted to leave the palace with Court Lady O. Court Lady O said to her, "It's all too late." But He Su was like a madwoman, determined to open the passage no matter what. Court Lady O embraced He Su, telling her, "Don't feel guilty. I'm not doing this for you. I'm just protecting what I want to protect. After I'm gone, you must always be vigilant, never easily trust anyone, and be careful in everything you do." He Su didn't want Court Lady O to take the blame for her. She went to kneel before the palace gates, begging the emperor for mercy. The 8th prince, upon learning of this, rushed to find He Su, but his mother stopped him. She said, "I've always let you do as you please, but not this time. If you insist on going, you'll have to step over my dead body. The emperor is already heartbroken over executing Court Lady O. If you go and provoke him now, you're just asking for death." The princess also said, "You turned a blind eye once. What's stopping you from doing it again?" He Su, as soon as she was released from prison, went to kneel before the palace gates, kneeling from day to day, for 2 days and 2 nights, her body barely able to endure it. That day, it even rained heavily. The princes, seeing He Su like that, were deeply saddened, but none dared to approach her, fearing the emperor's wrath. The 8th prince saw He Su kneeling in the rain and took a few steps towards her, but then he remembered his mother's words and retreated. He Su, seeing the 8th prince come and go, felt even more heartbroken. At this moment, the 4th prince put on a cloak and stood shielding He Su. For the person he loved, the 4th prince feared nothing. Court Lady O was also hanged. The emperor, watching the one he loved die like that, was in immense pain. He Su, hearing the death knell for Court Lady O, fainted. The next day, the emperor dispatched the 4th prince as an envoy to another country. The 4th prince, fearing neither heaven nor earth, laid down conditions with the emperor. He would carry out his mission well, but hoped the emperor would allow He Su to remain in the palace. Seeing the 4th prince so lovelorn, the emperor ordered the guards to take He Su to a place where the princes could not find her. Upon receiving the order, He Su went to find the 4th prince, hoping he would forget her and return the hairpin to him. He Su knew the 4th prince's departure from the capital this time was because of her. Traveling to another country as an envoy would take a very long time. The fourth prince looked into her eyes and said, "Don't say so much. I once said you were my person, so I will definitely protect you," then embraced her tightly. Hee-Soo watched the fourth prince's retreating figure, not angry, but with a slight flutter in her heart. On her way back, the eighth prince watched Hee-Soo from behind, but said nothing. Hee-Soo turned around and saw the eighth prince, but by this time, he had already left. The eighth prince returned home, intending to write a letter of explanation to Hee-Soo. The 14th prince suddenly ran to report that Hee-Soo was gone. Only then did he regret it, running to Hee-Soo's room and seeing it completely empty. He blamed himself for not cherishing Hee-Soo, and now he had to regret it. Hee-Soo was transferred to the lowest place in the palace, washing clothes with the old women, and was often mocked and bullied by them. Hee-Soo didn't bother arguing with them, thinking that running away was the best of 36 strategies. But after she left, they stuck their feet out to trip her. Unable to endure it any longer, she threw the wash basin to the ground, ready to fight them. But there were 2 of them, and they were shrewish, so how could she compete? The old women even threw all the clothes she had just washed into the lake. The 8th prince came here for the first time, and happened to witness this scene, but he didn't step forward to stop it, and turned away from Hee-Soo being bullied and left. That evening, when no one was around, Hee-Soo sat alone by the lake. The 8th prince came to find her. After a year of separation, the 2 finally met again. The 8th prince explained that because of the issue with Lady Shangyuan, the emperor was very angry, and his mother would not allow him to intervene. Therefore, he had no way to save her, nor could he marry her. Hee-Soo still foolishly asked the 8th prince, "Have you ever missed me? Even just once?" The 8th prince said he thought of her every hour of every day. Hee-Soo, hearing the 8th prince say this, all the longing and grievance of the past year disappeared, and she even told the 8th prince not to suffer for her sake. What a foolish girl. The 8th prince told Hee-Soo to take good care of herself and not to feel guilty anymore. The 4th prince had also returned from his mission, reporting on the situation of the past year to the emperor. The emperor then ordered him to go to the Liao dynasty. The 4th prince bluntly refused, saying, "When I went on the mission, I asked you to treat Hee-Soo well, but you didn't keep your word, so I won't go this time." The emperor was very angry. "Are you defying my decree just because of a woman?" The 4th prince was bold enough to ignore the emperor's anger and turned to leave, driving the emperor crazy. It turned out that the emperor wanted to correct the 4th prince's fearlessness, only then would he be at ease. The emperor also knew he didn't have much time left. Hee-Soo was hanging laundry when she turned around and fleetingly thought she saw the figure of the 4th prince. But upon closer inspection, he was nowhere to be found. She rubbed her eyes, wondering if she was imagining things, if she missed the 4th prince that much. As she was hanging a bedsheet, the 4th prince slowly wrapped his arms around her from behind. Hee-Soo said, "You shouldn't be here. Please leave." The 4th prince wasn't thinking that far ahead. He hadn't seen her in a year, and he'd witnessed the woman he loved endure so much suffering, but in his eyes, she was still the most beautiful. He soon noticed that the 4th prince was wearing his mask again, and she worriedly asked, "Why are you wearing a mask? Did you run out of makeup? Or has the scar gotten bigger?" The 4th prince removed his mask, saying to Hee-Soo, "I vowed that only you would see this half of my face." Because of Hee-Soo's current status, she couldn't be near the princes. She feared implicating the 4th prince and tried to leave. But the 4th prince didn't care about any of that. He didn't want the woman he loved to suffer injustice in this place. Hee-Soo angrily said, "Lady O died because of me. Now, every day, I'm filled with fear and anxiety, never knowing what might happen tomorrow, especially when I'm around you. And now you want me to go with you? Do you want to kill me? Leave? I'm living a good life now." Exhausted and unable to think clearly, the emperor remembered Hee-Soo and summoned her to the palace, asking her, "Who are you, really? Where did you come from? After Lady O's death, I investigated you thoroughly. I even investigated your family and friends. All I can say for certain is that you've undergone some kind of change." Hee-Soo became extremely tense upon hearing the emperor's words. She said that she time-traveled from the 21st century. The emperor asked, "Do you know that the 4th prince will eventually ascend the throne?" Because his time-traveling uncle had also told the emperor who would eventually become the next ruler. The emperor warned Hee-Soo, Even if you know, you cannot interfere. He Su asked the emperor if he could send her to a place where no one would know her. She didn't have the strength to continue living this way. The emperor said to her, "It doesn't matter where you go, things won't change. What you need to do is continue living well. If you truly are Lady O's daughter, then you're also my daughter. That's why I'm telling you so much." That evening, the fourth prince came to find He Su, offering her a hairpin as a proposal of marriage. After they married, they would leave the palace together. If she truly didn't like him, they would separate after leaving the palace. They just needed to get out of this place and then figure things out. But He Su said to the fourth prince, "You can't leave this place, you have something more important to do. You will become the emperor." The fourth prince said to He Su, "If becoming emperor means you can be by my side, then I will become emperor. If we can't be together, I don't care about being emperor." He Su knew that she couldn't change history, so she rejected the fourth prince and left. As she turned around, she saw the eighth prince. He Su frantically ran away. The fourth prince wanted to follow her, but the eighth prince blocked his path. The eighth prince resented the fourth prince, saying, "All the misfortune that He Su has suffered is because of you." The fourth prince immediately retorted, "Are you blaming me? I told you who the real culprit was, but you couldn't find any evidence. Why don't you ask yourself?" The eighth prince was furious at the fourth prince's words. The two of them started fighting. He Su returned to the Yami palace, thinking about the fourth prince's words. Even though she had rejected him at the time, she was still very happy inside. How could she not be happy after being proposed to by a man who loved her so deeply? The next day, the emperor, nearing his last moments, summoned He Su to his side and said, "Escort the crown prince back here." Because He Su had difficulty moving, she asked the emperor if someone else could be sent instead. The emperor replied, "Only you can do it. Before the crown prince returns, no one must know of my passing. After you leave here, someone will approach you. If that person asks if I am dead, you must be careful, for that is the one who seeks to usurp the throne." He Su accepted the imperial decree and rushed outside. She hadn't gone far when she encountered the eighth prince. He asked, "Is the emperor dead?" He Su remembered the emperor's words, "Trust no one." Now, the fate of Goryeo rested in her hands. This was, perhaps, her mission upon traveling back in time to Goryeo. He Su asked the eighth prince, "Do you want to be king?" The eighth prince told He Su that he wanted to be emperor. Only then could he protect her. Tomorrow, he and the third prince would storm the palace. The eighth prince asked again, "Is the emperor dead?" He Su, seeing the eighth prince's change, was deeply disappointed. She told him that the emperor wanted tea and left. She had to find the crown prince quickly. Running back and forth in the palace, she was pulled aside by the fourth prince. As soon as He Su saw the fourth prince, she told him, "The emperor is dead. He ordered me to find the crown prince. Tomorrow, the third prince will attack the palace. We must bring the crown prince back now." But now, the entire capital was guarded by the third prince's soldiers. Only the 14th prince knew of a secret path that could lead out. The fourth prince instructed the 14th prince to fetch the crown prince, while he stayed behind to confront the troops of the 3rd and 8th princes. That evening, He Su stared blankly at the throne. She didn't understand why this chair had made the emperor abandon Shangyuan-o, and why the princes were slaughtering each other. She pleaded with the 4th prince not to harm the 8th prince tomorrow. The 4th prince agreed not to harm him, but only if he wasn't killed by them first. He Su insisted that the 4th prince would not die, because she had learned the history in high school. The next day, the 8th and 3rd princes rallied their troops to attack the palace. The 8th prince told the 3rd prince that they must kill the 4th prince. They didn't expect that the 4th prince and the general were already there waiting for them. The 8th prince and the 4th prince charged at each other, each strike aimed at the other's vital points. Not even 5 minutes passed before the crown prince returned with his own soldiers. The 8th prince, seeing the crown prince's return, suddenly held a sword to the 3rd prince's throat. The general ordered the 3rd prince to be captured. Because the emperor had passed, everyone knelt down to pay their respects to the new emperor. The 8th prince questioned He Su. "Why did you deceive me? Why didn't you tell me the emperor was dead?" He Su replied. "The emperor wanted to pass the throne to the crown prince. I couldn't disobey the emperor's wishes." She also asked the 8th prince, Now we are free. Didn't you say we would live a normal life together? We can leave." But the 8th prince went back on his word. "Now I want to be emperor. I can't go with you." He-Su, looking at the unfamiliar 8th prince before her, directly said goodbye. Meanwhile, somehow the 3rd prince had escaped. The princes together chased after him. They chased him until the 3rd prince was cornered at a cliff. The 8th prince was about to use a bow and arrow to kill the 3rd prince as if he were hunting an animal. The 4th prince stopped the 8th prince. He didn't want to see his brothers killing each other. He stepped forward to persuade the 3rd prince to turn back. The 3rd prince knew there was no turning back now. The two fought back and forth. The 3rd prince was wounded by the 4th prince's sword and fell off the cliff. The 4th prince reached out to save him, but couldn't grab him. Returning to the palace, he was deeply saddened. He didn't want to see his brothers killing each other, but he himself had killed a prince. The 4th prince, who had never shed tears before, cried for the first time. 2 years have flashed by, and He-Su has been promoted to head attendant of the Yami Palace. The 8th prince sent her former handmaiden to Yami Palace to serve the emperor. The emperor only trusts He-Su to bathe him, so He-Su leads the handmaiden to assist with the emperor's bathing ritual. Each time, the handmaiden secretly adds mercury to the water. On the night of He-Su's birthday, the 4th prince invited He-Su to stargaze with him. They talked a lot about their childhoods. The 4th prince then said, "I feel so at ease when I'm with you. I can't stay away from you. If you don't like me, please tell me soon. I don't want to be a backup option." After saying that, the 4th prince wanted to kiss He-Su, but she stopped him. He-Su said that he could only kiss her when she agreed to it. The 4th prince playfully asked, "So, can I kiss you now?" He-Su naturally refused. The 4th prince told He-Su, "Let's go to the wishing bridge tomorrow afternoon. There are things I absolutely must tell you there." The emperor couldn't sleep at all every night. He shivered with cold and experienced hallucinations. The 8th prince stood by the emperor's bedside and said insincerely, "Your Majesty, you are about to die. Please abdicate the throne to me. If you abdicate to me, I will ensure you live out the rest of your days in comfort." It turned out that the handmaiden who put mercury in the emperor's bathwater was acting on the 8th prince's orders. The next day, the emperor wanted to marry his daughter off to the country of Liao. He no longer trusted anyone. Because of the 8th prince's influence, the emperor was insistent on him abdicating. The 4th prince saw the princess, who was not yet 10 years old, crying and wailing. He couldn't help but recall his own childhood. He knew that the princess was being sent to Liao as a hostage. He didn't want the princess to follow in his footsteps, so he stopped the emperor. The emperor said, "Then you marry the princess. That way, you can protect us." The 4th prince agreed with the emperor. In the afternoon, He-Su waited for the 4th prince under the wishing bridge. She wore the hairpin he had given her when he proposed, but the 4th prince never arrived. The 4th prince, seeing He-Su waiting for him, noticed she wasn't wearing the hairpin he'd gifted, and was deeply disappointed. However, when He-Su turned around, he was overjoyed to see she had it pinned on the other side of her hair. He-Su asked if he didn't have something important to tell her. But the 4th prince had already agreed to a marriage arranged by the emperor, so he didn't know how to broach the subject. He said he'd forgotten what was so important, and suggested they do something else. He took He-Su boating, intentionally rocking the boat to tease her. Afterward, the 4th prince apologized to He-Su, and she was understanding, saying, "You'll remember it eventually." The next day, He-Su overheard the 13th prince saying that the 4th prince was getting married soon. He-Su was shocked because she knew nothing about it. That evening, He-Su went to find the 4th prince, wanting an explanation, but he said nothing. "I've already let you down, so anything I say is useless. I know you don't like the idea of a man having multiple wives and concubines, but I'm doing it anyway, so I don't know what to say." Seeing that he didn't offer a single word of explanation, He-Su turned and left. The following day, the 4th prince sent her a letter with only 2 sentences, without any explanation. He-Su thought she understood the 4th prince very well, but now realized she didn't understand him at all. When the 14th prince went to see his mother, he discovered that the 3rd prince, who was supposed to be dead, was there. The 3rd prince said that he was grateful that the 4th prince had spared his life, not striking a fatal blow. Now I'm going back to reclaim the throne." The emperor was experiencing hallucinations and prohibited anyone from walking around the palace at night. Anyone caught would be killed without exception. The 14th prince ran back late at night, forgetting the emperor's decree, and was discovered by the 4th prince's guards. With nowhere else to go, he hid in Yami's palace. The 4th prince wanted to search it, but Hee Su raised the hairpin and threatened to kill herself. The 4th prince remained firm, but when he saw Hee Su cut a slit on her neck, he had to give up. After the 4th prince left, the 14th prince asked why she had saved him. Hee Su said that because of the 3rd prince's affair, the relationship between the two brothers was already not good. If the two were to encounter each other, the relationship would be even worse. If it were another prince, she would do the same. The 4th prince waited outside all night. The next day, the 4th prince pulled Hee Su out, wanting to hear her explanation, asking if the person she was hiding last night was the 14th prince. He repeatedly wanted to break down the door, asking her why she was protecting the 14th prince. Hee Su was also angry, saying that she wanted to hear his explanation even more. He just wrote 2 sentences on a torn piece of paper and abandoned her. What was the reason for the sudden marriage? Did he know he was wrong? What did he do wrong? As expected, once a woman gets angry, men will have to be scared. The 4th prince gently said that he saw the little princess and thought of himself as a child, and there was no other way than marriage. After the wedding, she would become a nun. This was just to make the emperor feel safer. Hee Su also explained that the 14th prince had forgotten the rule that he was not allowed to go out at night, so she had covered for him. Nothing else happened last night. The two of them said that no one should lie from now on. The 4th prince told Hee Su the important thing he wanted to say last time, "I love you." Hearing these 3 words, Hee Su proactively kissed the 4th prince. At first, the 4th prince didn't react in time. Happiness came so suddenly, he hugged Hee Su tightly and kissed her passionately. The next day, the 3rd prince led his troops to storm the imperial palace. It was baffling how he could breach the palace defenses with so few men. At that very moment, the emperor had just finished bathing. Due to the mercury baths he'd been taking for the past 2 years, he was suffering from severe mercury poisoning, even vomiting blood. Hee Su's court lady, witnessing this, fled in terror. The 3rd prince quickly burst into the main hall and pushed the emperor into the bathtub. Hee Su desperately screamed and cried, but it was no use. She could only watch helplessly as the emperor drowned. Just then, the 4th prince stormed in as well. He was consumed by rage at finding the emperor dead. The 4th prince defeated the soldiers on both sides and then confronted the 3rd prince. The 3rd prince insisted he wasn't the killer, claiming the emperor died from poisoning, and that Hee Su, who was the only one around during his baths, must be responsible for killing the emperor. The 3rd prince proposed that if the 4th prince didn't want Hee Su to die, then he should pledge his loyalty. The 4th prince, not wanting Hee Su to be harmed, abandoned his claim to the throne and chose to submit. The emperor's end was truly tragic. He only lasted 2 episodes. After the new emperor ascended the throne, his first act was to order the 4th prince to kill the 13th prince. When the 4th prince refused, the emperor threatened him, saying that if he didn't comply, he would kill Hee Su and issue a decree to the whole world for what the previous emperor did, killing everyone around the 4th prince. Left with no other option, the 4th prince was forced to obey. The 13th prince and his wife, having nowhere else to run, had no choice but to seek out Hee Su. At this point, they were unaware that their entire family and relatives, over 100 people, had already been slaughtered. Hee Su continued her duties, pouring tea and water for the emperor. She questioned the new emperor, asking who had ultimately poisoned the previous emperor. The emperor revealed that it was the 8th prince. Hee Su saw the 8th prince entering, and she couldn't believe that the man she loved had transformed into such a person. That evening, on her way back, she encountered the 4th prince. The 4th prince, hearing that Hee Su had been summoned, feared for her safety and came to check on her. The 4th prince told Hee Su that the emperor was using her to blackmail him into killing the 13th prince, but he didn't want to do it. He wanted to quickly find and help his brother escape. Hee Su was haunted by the image of the 4th prince killing the 13th prince, and she didn't tell him that the 13th prince was hiding in Yami Palace. The 13th prince's wife wanted to say goodbye to the general, but He Su refused. Because the fourth prince had a very good relationship with the general, she was afraid that the fourth prince would find out about it. The wife asked He Su, "You have a very good relationship with the fourth prince, so why don't you trust him?" He Su thought about it and said the wife was right. She went to look for the fourth prince but didn't find anyone, so she left a letter. At this moment, she heard the fourth prince talking to his uncle who also time traveled. At this point, He Su didn't tell the fourth prince the whereabouts of the 13th prince because she wanted to protect both sides. He Su didn't want to see her loved ones slaughtering each other. The fourth prince resented He Su for not trusting him, which resulted in the 13th prince being killed. He broke up with He Su. When the fourth prince made this decision, he was also very distressed, but he couldn't let the emperor gain leverage over him. The next day, the emperor ordered the fourth prince to leave the capital to oversee the construction of the new imperial palace. After the fourth prince departed, the 14th prince presented the broken arrow found on the 13th prince to the emperor. Upon seeing the arrow, the emperor began to hallucinate, constantly hearing the 13th prince's tormented cries calling out to him. He was deeply disturbed. He Su heard that the fourth prince would be gone from the city for an extended period. She had hoped he would say goodbye at their usual meeting spot, but when she arrived, the fourth prince was not there. Spring passed into autumn, flowers bloomed and withered. He Su waited for 3 long years. A maid informed He Su that a familiar face had come looking for her. Thinking it was the fourth prince, she hurried back to Yami Palace, but the person she found was the 14th prince. The 14th prince had always yearned for He Su, so upon returning to the palace, he immediately came to visit her. He asked He Su, "The fourth prince has returned as well. Has he come to see you?" It was then that He Su realized the fourth prince had been back for 3 years and hadn't sought her out. The emperor was constantly tormented by the guilt of having murdered the 13th prince, chanting sutras before a Buddha statue every day, yet still hearing the 13th prince's anguished screams. When He Su came to pour tea for the emperor, she saw the fourth prince. The emperor, angered by the slow progress of the new palace construction, flew into a rage, grabbing He Su's hand tightly and saying to the fourth prince, "If manpower isn't enough, make them carry bricks." The emperor squeezed He Su's hand so hard that it hurt. The 14th prince moved to intervene but was stopped by the 8th prince. Seeing the emperor's actions, the 4th prince knelt down and said he would expedite the progress. Only then did the emperor release He Su's hand. For the past 3 years, every night He Su wrote down the 2 lines of poetry that the 4th prince had once given her. This was enough to show the depth of her longing for the 4th prince. The next day, the 4th prince went to the garden where they used to meet, reflecting on the memories they shared together. Tears welled up in his eyes. When he turned around, he saw He Su. The emperor happened to witness them together. The emperor wanted to test the 4th prince to see if he still loved He Su. He used a bow and arrow and shot at He Su. Seeing He Su in danger, the 4th prince immediately rushed to her rescue. He Su was injured on the shoulder because of this. The 4th prince stood up and left without paying attention to He Su. He Su looked at the arrow, and she decided to leave the palace and find the 4th prince. He Su, risking her life, went to the 4th prince's residence. She was heartbroken to see that his wound had reopened because he had saved her. She helped him bandage the wound. The 4th prince vaguely saw He Su. He thought he was dreaming. When he woke up the next day, he saw He Su sleeping next to the bed. The 4th prince looked at the woman he loved but couldn't express his feelings. He wanted to reach out and touch her gently, but He Su woke up at that moment. The 4th prince told He Su to leave, that this was not a place she should be. He Su said to the 4th prince, "I love you. I risked my life to leave the palace because I wanted to know if you truly loved me or not." Hearing her words, the 4th prince turned around and hugged He Su tightly, kissing her passionately. After 3 years of separation, the two were finally together. He Su and the 4th prince were enjoying the blissful days of a couple, eating together, stargazing together, talking about their dreams, about the future. The uncle who traveled through time with He Su told the 4th prince, "It's time to act." Lately, the emperor's condition had been extremely serious, often calling in Taoist priests to perform exorcisms. He Su asked the 4th prince if he could renounce the throne. The 4th prince replied, "If I want to stop the brothers from killing each other, It can only end if I become emperor. I don't want to be controlled by others, forced to ascend the throne." The following evening, the fourth prince had people impersonate ghosts to frighten the emperor. Despite being the emperor, he had the heart of a child. Not only was he timid, but there wasn't even a single guard by his side. The emperor saw a shadowy figure outside the window and fainted from fear. The next day, He Su poured tea for the emperor, her hand trembling, unable to hold the cup steady. Seeing this, the emperor asked if she had poisoned him. At this moment, the fourth prince led troops to seize the imperial palace, drawing his sword to attack, but the palace gates opened. The princess opened the main gates to welcome the fourth prince. The emperor also knew his time was running out, so he wrote a will, asking He Su who she wanted the throne to be passed on to. Seeing the emperor like this, He Su was terrified. The emperor, upon hearing the news that the fourth prince had stormed the palace, clutched the will and fainted. The fourth prince entered, saw the emperor's will, and tore it to shreds. He Su saw the high-ranking officials enter and prostrate themselves before the fourth prince. The fourth prince officially ascended the throne. He Su looked at the fourth prince wearing the dragon robe. "This is Emperor Guangzhong. I can't let him become the tyrannical ruler that he was in history." The fourth prince asked He Su, "Are you curious about what the late emperor wrote in his will?" He Su didn't want to know anything because she had learned about history in high school and knew the fourth prince was the last emperor. The fourth prince told He Su, "The will didn't name anyone. I was afraid of stirring up conflict, so I tore it up." He Su said to the fourth prince, "No matter what, I will always believe in you." The fourth prince dozed off and had a nightmare, dreaming about He Su, so he woke up suddenly. Seeing He Su beside him, he hugged her and slept the whole night. The next day, the Queen Dowager sought out He Su, pressing her to reveal what the late emperor had written in the will, and if he had truly bequeathed the throne to the fourth prince. He Su steadfastly maintained that it was passed on to the fourth prince. The Queen Dowager didn't believe her, grabbing He Su and continuing to interrogate her. "You're lying to me? Who was it really passed on to? If you don't tell me the truth, I'll kill you." Fortunately, the fourth prince arrived and stopped everything, pulling He Su behind him. The fourth prince said, "Take it out on me. Ask me anything you want. The late emperor's will stated that the throne was bequeathed to me." The 14th prince even asked why the late emperor had a son, yet bequeathed the throne to his brother. The fourth prince said sternly, "If you don't believe me, you can go down there and ask him." The Queen Dowager had disliked the fourth prince since he was young because of the scar on his face and had given him away to someone else. Now, even though the fourth prince had become emperor, she still didn't accept this son. The emperor disregarded them, pulling He Su away. The fourth prince sat on the throne, dwelling on recent events when a guard reported a conspiracy for rebellion. A surge of rage immediately washed over him. He ordered the execution of all the late emperor's court ladies and guards, leaving no one alive. His time-traveling uncle gaped, overhearing the emperor's decree. He knew the blood-soaked era of the Guangzhong dynasty had begun. The new emperor's accession would lead to some court ladies being released to return to civilian life. He Su's maid was among them, but she wasn't ready to leave yet. She hoped He Su would ask the emperor to let her stay. She had received instructions from the 9th prince to remain and monitor He Su and the 4th prince. That evening, He Su went to find the 4th prince, but ran into the 8th prince along the way. The 8th prince asked He Su, "Why did you choose to be with the 4th prince and not me?" He Su replied, "The 4th prince was willing to give up his claim to the throne for me, and he doesn't hide his ambition from me. When I'm with you, I don't feel safe. Please, don't seek me out again." The 8th prince stared at the bracelet He Su had returned, remembering all the small moments they shared. He resolved, what he could not have, no one else would. The 8th prince agreed to help the princess become empress. Later that night, He Su made the 4th prince write the 2 lines of poetry he had given her 200 times. The 4th prince didn't understand why he had to write them so many times. He Su said that during their 3 years of separation, she had written them 200 times every day, so this was nothing. He Su asked the 4th prince to allow her maid to stay in the palace. She would be very lonely if she left. Hearing He Su say she would be lonely filled the 4th prince with joy. "Let your maid stay," he said, "and I will never let you be lonely again. We will have a whole brood of children to play with you." He Su wasn't going to give the fourth prince children that easily. At the very least, there had to be a proper proposal. Children would come after the wedding. The fourth prince looked flustered and asked, "I have to propose?" The imperial physician arrived and reported that her health was very weak. She was so weak that keeping her alive would be a struggle, let alone her bearing children. He Su went to the wishing tree, hoping she could live a little longer. Still in her early 20s, she didn't want to die so young, and even less did she want to leave the fourth prince alone. The 14th prince reported, "The fourth prince has already begun the slaughter. You can't become empress if you stay here. Do you want to become just one of thousands of concubines?" He Su didn't understand why she couldn't be empress. The 14th prince told her, "Because the fourth prince has to solidify his position through political marriages with powerful families. If he didn't, our father wouldn't have taken more than 20 concubines. When you want to leave, tell me. I'll find a way to get you out of the palace." The next day, the 8th prince used the marriage proposal with the princess to threaten the emperor, saying that if he didn't agree, the noble families would plot a rebellion. The emperor, of course, refused to consent. The one he loved was He Su. How could he possibly marry someone else? The 8th prince reminded the 4th prince that He Su had previously cut her wrist, leaving a scar, which meant she couldn't marry the emperor. The 4th prince naturally didn't listen to the 8th prince. He, too, had a scar on his face, and he was still serving as emperor as usual. The princess also came to find He Su. Before anything was even settled, she started boasting, "The emperor and I are going to get married. I'm going to bear children for the emperor." Although He Su didn't believe her, hearing the princess say such things naturally made her unhappy. During court, the ministers also began to exert pressure, forcing the emperor to marry the princess. The emperor knew that He Su didn't like the idea of having many wives and concubines, so he resolutely refused to agree. In the afternoon, the time-traveling uncle said to He Su, "We've both time-traveled here, and we've both studied history. If you don't let go, His Majesty will definitely be adamant to the end." He Su initially disagreed. "We barely managed to get together, and now you're telling me to give up? Impossible." But the uncle said, "Now the fourth prince is the emperor. If you don't give up, his throne will be in jeopardy. Can you forgive yourself?" That evening, He Su took 2 masks to find the fourth prince. She wanted to take a stroll through the night market with him, to experience the ordinary days of a couple, to try being normal, to make a wish together by the lake, to wander the streets. He Su led the fourth prince to the wishing bridge. The fourth prince proposed to He Su, hoping she would marry him. He Su looked at the fourth prince and then refused. She didn't want to marry him because she wanted him to be safe, hoping his power would be consolidated, so she couldn't marry him. But she would be a palace maid, always by his side. The fourth prince knew that he could only do this to solidify his position, but in his heart, He Su was the only empress. The next day, the fourth prince married a princess, and the whole country rejoiced. He Su went to the wishing bridge and met the 14th prince. He said, "If you want, I can take you away anytime." He Su asked, "As long as I want to?" The 14th prince emphasized again, "Yes, anytime. As long as you say you want to, I can disregard everything and take you away." That night, the princess and the fourth prince spent their wedding night together. She was overjoyed, thinking to herself that she would bear the fourth prince a child. But the fourth prince paid no attention to her and went to find He Su. He came to the wishing bridge and saw her praying with her maid, silently watching from a distance. When he returned, he didn't even enter the bridal chamber. Early the next morning, the emperor issued an edict banishing the 14th prince to his hometown. This was the severest punishment, second only to execution, forbidding him from leaving his house even a single step, for the crime of pressuring He Su about the late emperor's will and threatening the fourth prince's throne. The 14th prince was banished to Zhongzhou, and if he dared to step into the capital even half a step, he would be executed immediately. The Empress Dowager fainted upon hearing that her youngest son had been sentenced to banishment. On her deathbed, she wanted to see the 14th prince one last time, but the emperor refused. The 14th prince, upon hearing the news, wanted to visit his mother one last time, but was stopped by the guards. He stood outside the Empress Dowager's door for 3 days and 3 nights without eating or drinking. The Empress Dowager also didn't eat for 3 days. The fourth prince sat beside her bed and said, Now the third prince, whom you valued the most, is dead. The 14th prince, whom you cherish the most, is standing outside and can't come in. Only I am by your side. Years ago, when you abandoned me, I said I would show you the day I became emperor. That is my revenge." The Empress Dowager, upon hearing those words, died of rage. After she passed, He Su took it upon herself to allow the 14th prince to see her one last time. That evening, the 4th prince reproached He Su for helping the 14th prince. "I'm the one who spent 20-odd years without a mother's love. She never once stroked my head. What's wrong with what I did?" He Su sighed. The next day, the emperor questioned the 9th prince. Was it the 8th prince who used mercury to poison the eldest brother? Was it also the 8th prince who killed the 13th prince? Under the emperor's stern interrogation, the 9th prince had no choice but to reveal the truth. Everything was the 8th prince's doing. Although he had anticipated as much, the emperor was still incredibly furious. That afternoon, He Su searched everywhere but couldn't find her maid. The people of the Yami Palace all avoided her. When He Su went outside, she saw 2 guards beating someone so severely that the blood soaked through the mat underneath. She approached to see who it was and realized it was her maid. She immediately fainted. That night, the emperor came to visit her. He Su questioned him about why he had done it. She considered this maid like a younger sister, yet she had been beaten to death. The 4th prince said that the maid had been constantly spying on them. She was under the 9th prince's command, observing their every move to harm He Su. He had asked her to leave the palace and become a commoner again, but she stubbornly clung to He Su and refused to go, so he couldn't spare her life. He Su read the letter that the maid had left for her, recalling how, when she first time traveled here, she couldn't read and had asked the maid for help. At that time, the maid had said that she also couldn't read, and then wrote a letter for her. She wondered what lies the maid had told her. In the letter, the maid expressed her feelings for He Su, saying that she was secretly in love with the 9th prince and that she did everything for him, hoping He Su could forgive her. The emperor returned to his chambers drunk. The princess wanted to share a marital bed with him to have a child. But the 4th prince said, "If you truly want to have a child with me, you must give him up. Your heart belongs to the 8th prince." He Su didn't know how to face the 4th prince, so she sought out the prince, gave him her hairpin, asked him to deliver it to the 14th prince, and relay her message that she agreed. That evening, the 4th prince came to find He Su, saw the phoenix robe at the head of the bed, and thought that she longed to be his one and only. So the next day, he summoned her, expressing his desire to marry her and to appoint her as empress. But what He Su wanted wasn't those things, but understanding and companionship. The princess told the 4th prince that she had decided to give up the 8th prince and serve the emperor wholeheartedly. The next morning, the 8th prince presented the emperor with a falcon. But when the cloth was opened, it was revealed to be a dead bird. The officials questioned whether he was cursing the emperor. The 4th prince immediately arrested the 8th prince, giving him the opportunity to be executed for treasonous intent. He Su heard the news that the 8th prince was to be executed and went to plead with the 4th prince to spare his life. When the emperor refused, she knelt down. He Su had previously injured her knees kneeling for court Lady O. If she continued to kneel now, she might not be able to walk in the future. The 4th prince was uncomfortable seeing He Su pleading so earnestly for the 8th prince, but he couldn't bear to see her kneeling forever, so he agreed to spare him from the death penalty. However, his life would still be difficult. The 8th prince was exiled to his hometown and forbidden from ever leaving his gate for the rest of his life. Upon receiving He Su's hairpin, the 14th prince rode his horse tirelessly back to the imperial palace, carrying the late emperor's decree bestowing a marriage between himself and He Su. The emperor vehemently opposed, "How can I allow someone else to steal the woman I love? I am the emperor now. The late emperor's decree is no longer valid." The 14th prince had anticipated this response from the 4th prince. "The late emperor passed the throne to you in his will, and you obeyed his command then. Now you defy it. Aren't you afraid people will use that against you and gossip about it? I have already informed all the high-ranking officials. If you do not accept this marriage, everyone will doubt the validity of the late emperor's will." Overwhelmed by this, the emperor ordered the 14th prince to be executed for defying imperial orders and entering the city without permission. But the 14th prince stated that He Su consented to this of her own free will. The 4th prince went to He Su, asking if she truly wanted to marry the 14th prince. He explained that the 14th prince had the late emperor's decree in his possession. He Su didn't know when that decree had been issued. The 4th prince continued, saying that after 3 years, the 14th prince left the capital, and upon his return, claimed she wished to marry him. He Su immediately agreed. If they didn't adhere to the late emperor's decree, it would undoubtedly lead to discussions about the legitimacy of his succession. They had been separated in the past, and both deeply missed each other. Each time she thought of him, she felt hurt. However, even though they could be together now and see each other every day, she began to fear and despise him. She didn't want her feelings for him to be replaced solely by resentment. The Empress, upon learning that the Emperor was disobeying the late Emperor's decree, worried that he might lose his throne, so she sought out the 8th prince, asking him to intervene. The next day, the 8th prince visited the Emperor, recounting his past relationship with He Su, and emphasizing that they had even pledged to marry each other. Upon hearing this, the Emperor, furious, went to find He Su. Finally, he understood why she had desperately pleaded for the 8th prince's life. The bracelet she always wore was also a token of her promise to him. He asked He Su, "Was the 8th prince the one you loved before?" The feelings He Su had always hidden were now exposed by the 4th prince's discovery. He Su begged for his forgiveness, but he refused to give her the opportunity. The 4th prince had believed he was her first love, but now he realized he was just a fallback option. Just as he was truly falling in love, he found out that He Su and the 8th prince had been promised to each other long ago, and she was planning to marry the 14th prince, and there was no way the 4th prince would accept that. The 4th prince declared that he never wanted to see her again. The next day, He Su left the imperial palace. The 8th prince came to see her off. He Su thanked the 8th prince for revealing the 4th prince's past. She knew he would never have revealed that if he hadn't wished for her to leave the palace. The 8th prince also knew their fate was sealed, so he simply wished He Su happiness. He Su continuously glanced back at the imperial palace. The 4th prince, even though he allowed her to marry the 14th prince, couldn't stop longing for her in his heart. Looking at his imperial robe, he made the decision to never love another. He Su was carried in a sedan chair to the 14th prince's residence. Even though she had left the 4th prince, she still kept the collection of poems he had written for her. In her free time, she would take up her brush and paint the scar on his face. The 14th prince, aware that they were being watched, deliberately acted affectionate with He Su, purely to put on a show for the 4th prince. That afternoon, the royal physician informed He Su that she was pregnant, but that she had a heart condition, and if she carried the baby to term, it would likely endanger her life. Because this child was the 4th prince's, He Su was determined to keep it. Meanwhile, the 4th prince, upon hearing from his subordinate that she and the 14th prince were deeply in love, became extremely angry and decided to go and see for himself. This was because the 14th prince had previously told him that it was only a marriage in name. Since He Su left the palace, she had constantly longed for the 4th prince, drawing him every day. One day, her heart condition flared up, and the 14th prince rushed her back to her room. The 4th prince inadvertently witnessed this scene. That evening, out of worry, the 14th prince set up a makeshift bed next to He Su's to make it easier to take care of her. The two reminisced about how they first met and many happy times from the past. The 4th prince, outside, heard the laughter and voices and saw that the lights were already out. He turned away and resolved to ignore them from now on, to not care about anything concerning them. Before long, 6 months passed, and He Su gave birth to a baby girl. The 14th prince instructed the midwife to keep it a secret, not to let anyone know. The royal physician reported that after the birth, He Su's body was extremely weak, and it was feared that she didn't have much time left. Now, He Su only wished to see the 4th prince's face one last time. He Su wrote a letter to the 4th prince. The 14th prince immediately sent someone to deliver the letter, but noticing that her handwriting resembled the 4th prince's, he added another letter. The 4th prince, seeing the letter the 14th prince sent, immediately threw it away. Currently, He Su's body was growing weaker by the day, but the 4th prince still hadn't responded. Sending countless letters, all without a reply, caused her great sorrow. Did the fourth prince hate her that much? Wanting to cheer her up, the 14th prince invited a troupe of entertainers to sing for her. Heesu heard the song she once sang for the princes, and gradually closed her eyes. Before dying, she asked the 14th prince to take good care of her daughter. As for her, she didn't get to wait for the 4th prince to arrive. The 4th prince, hearing the news of Heesu's death, couldn't believe that Heesu hated him so much. The older servant told him, "Heesu has been writing letters to you all along. Didn't you read them?" Only then did he begin to read each of the letters she sent, and he learned that she was always longing for him, waiting for him to come and get her. The 4th prince, after reading the letters, immediately rode to find Heesu, but she had already left this world. Looking at her urn of ashes, hatred for the 4th prince swelled. "Why would you put another letter on the outside?" The 14th prince replied, "Because your handwriting is too similar. Everyone would think the same thing." The 4th prince was heartbroken and took the urn of ashes. But the 4th prince was not allowed to take it. After all, Heesu was his wife in name. Prince Baek-ah stopped the 14th prince, because they both knew Heesu always wanted to be by the 4th prince's side. At this point, Prince Baek-ah realized that the 14th prince also truly loved Heesu, and was willing to do anything for her. "Look at him, he's so foolish." The 4th prince hugged Heesu's urn of ashes and buried it under the wish-granting tree. The emperor bestowed upon the 9th prince a poisoned wine. Before Heesu died, she wrote a letter to him. Only then did the 9th prince realize that the girl he had abandoned had loved him so deeply. He blamed himself for not cherishing her. On the anniversary of Heesu's death 6 years later, the 4th prince stood before the wishing tree. As he turned around, he bumped into a little girl. Seeing him, she exclaimed, "Hey, hey, don't go until you give me 5,000 won." Her actions and expressions reminded the 4th prince of when he first bumped into Heesu. The 14th prince came over, saw the 4th prince, and quickly took the child away. The 4th prince noticed that the girl was wearing the hairpin he had given Heesu. Moreover, her age matched the time since Heesu had left him, so he knew for sure that she was his daughter. The 14th prince pleaded with the 4th prince, saying that Heesu didn't want her daughter to live in the palace, only wishing for her to be a normal person. The 4th prince looked at his daughter and revoked the punishment against the 14th prince so that he could bring the girl into the palace whenever he wanted. As for the old man, after completing his mission, he said to the 4th prince, "Now that His Majesty's reign is secure, I request permission to retire back to my hometown." He also said, "Heesu isn't from this world. Don't yearn for her too much." The old man had barely left the palace when a total solar eclipse occurred. Heesu in the 21st century woke up again, returning to the modern era. She couldn't understand why, after being in a coma for a year, she kept dreaming about a man wearing a mask. Moreover, she always cried when she woke up. The next day, while working at the cosmetics store, she saw a man wearing glasses talking about skincare knowledge. Seeing her, he approached, looked at her name tag, and asked if she was a go. 500 years ago, it would be he. She didn't understand why he was saying that. He then said, "Nothing is accidental. Everything will return to its original place." As she was introducing cosmetics to him, an image of the 4th prince suddenly flashed through her mind. She didn't know why she had this memory. She suddenly felt dizzy. Her colleague ran over to support her, telling her to rest for a bit. At that moment, she saw a Goryeo-era painting and curiously went over to look at it. Looking at the painting, she remembered her recent dreams, and the memories slowly returned to her head. Seeing the image of the 4th prince, she recalled their unforgettable love. Finally, she realized that it wasn't all a dream. She had time-traveled back to the 21st century, leaving the 4th prince alone in the ancient world. Looking at the 4th prince, all alone in the painting, she was filled with intense pain, unable to imagine how he would get through it. The 4th prince looked up at the total solar eclipse, thinking about what the old man had just said, "Heesu isn't from this world." At that moment, Prince Baek-ah came to beg to leave the palace. Now, only the 4th prince remained. He remembered the happy times he had spent with Heesu. After she left, he felt like an empty shell. Heesu had once said, "How wonderful it would be if we could meet in another world, where we wouldn't have to worry about anything and could just love each other." At that moment, he made a decision. If Heesu didn't belong to this world, Then he would go to that world to find her. No matter where she was, he would find her.